All right, but good morning, everybody. Thank you again. We're going to go ahead and initiate our program for this morning. Good morning. All right. So good morning, everybody. Good morning. Let's try that one more time because this is a room full of energy and opportunity, okay? So good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, well, a few things. Let me first introduce myself. I'm George Carter, Economic Development Project Manager for Contra Costa County's Department of Conservation and Development Economic Development Unit. And so really glad to have you here. We also have our manager, Alyson Greenlee, and our Deputy Director, Jason Crapo here. But also we have lots of partners here, so really glad to have you all here joining us this morning. A few housekeeping items just to make sure you're aware. First, the restrooms are very important. Bio breaks, just straight out the room here, straight on your left-hand side are men and women's restrooms. Also, there is a Wi-Fi code if you don't have it already. It's rec rental, and just so you know, the capital R in rent and capital R in rental, 0896. So rec rental altogether, and then 0896 is the Wi-Fi. If you have any questions or concerns, let us know. We can definitely assist you with that as well, okay? Wonderful. All right, so we're going to, just so you know, on our program, there is one modification. Due to a scheduling challenge, the Cal Office of Small Business Advocate is not available to present it this morning, but it does allow a little extra time, and so we did allocate, I see the updated agenda, it allows us for our Contra Costa County to provide an update as well. So we're gonna make up the time, but just give you that little brief update. And if they do have any information that they wanna share, I'll make sure everyone gets a copy of that. Hopefully everybody's signed in, or if you haven't signed in, you at least accepted a calendar invitation. That way we can make sure and correspond with you after this meeting. All right, so first I want to thank the city of Pleasant Hill for being such an exceptional partner and being hosting this event this morning. So if we can please give the city of Pleasant Hill an applause, please. Thank you. And so thanks Zach Seal for collaborating and helping us out. And with Zach's efforts, we were able to have the mayor, Tim Flaherty, come. And so we're going to initiate the morning with a welcome from our distinguished mayor, Tim Flaherty. Please welcome him. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, George. You know, I'm a lawyer by day, practice in real estate and business litigation, and I thought I was invited to a continuing legal education class on the tax increment financing tools. So, oh, well. Please test me later. Really, on behalf of the city of Pleasant Hill, welcome here. Our tagline we adopted some years ago is at the center of everything. Yes, it's boastful, perhaps jingoistic, but it really does recognize that we are at the center geographically. We are surrounded by much larger and in some cases affluent communities, but we are, I think, at the core of the county, and I think it's appropriate that economic development is the topic of discussion here at the center of the county, at the center of everything. So here in Pleasant Hill, through the efforts of Zach Seal, our economic development is a juggernaut. I think a key component of economic development is housing, and as you navigated our streets to get here, you may have noticed that we have a number of housing projects that are under construction, near completion, and already for sale. The council, with its forward-thinking mayor, approved some higher density housing in our downtown core, because if you want your businesses to be successful, you need to have people. And to bring people downtown or to the commercial corridors is a key focus of our council. But it's hard because we no longer have the tools as a city to foster development in any aspect since the loss of redevelopment. So we're really at the mercy of the private developers and the marketplace. But again, because of Pleasant Hill's central location, I think we've been lucky. So I know that this event ends at noon today, and you may want to have lunch. So please let me promote some of the opportunities you may have to enjoy the city of Pleasant Hill after this event. I know that you already had some breakfast goodies from some of our places. Paris Baguette is one of our newest features in our downtown. You also had Princess Bread, was it? Star Bread. Lovely, lovely place. But if you are walking out of the community center and if you just went a little north to the east, you would find the Korea Star and also Los Panchos, new restaurants. If you went west, just up the street to the Hillcrest, is one of my favorite little gems called The Hangout. It's a breakfast and brunch place open till 3 p.m. And then if you went just a little further and turned right on Pleasant Hill Road, you get to Zunin, which is a Mexican gourmet restaurant, and then get to our downtown core, enjoy Paris baguette, stick around, go across the street, get a beer at the Morgan Territory Tap Room. So without further ado, I want to let you get to work. You know, breakfast is my favorite meal of the day because bacon is always part of that menu. And I think it's important that as part of economic development, you work together, you collaborate, and figure out how to bring the bacon back to your communities. So with that, good morning, and I'm off to my day job. All right.
Thank you again, Mayor Flaherty. Appreciate you with the welcome. All right, so now we'll go ahead and get started with some of our updates for the morning. For the first update is from our California Association for Local Economic Development, better known as CalEd. And so with that, we want to welcome Rowe-Cole, who's the Membership and Rural Exchange Coordinator. So please let's give her a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, George. And it's really nice to be here. I recognize a lot of your names because I am the membership person. So it's really nice to see faces with names. As George said, I'm Rowe-Cole. I'm the Membership and Rural Exchange Coordinator with CalEd. Gerbak Sahota, our CEO, was supposed to be here today, but we financed through our CETA program an expansion of the Holocaust Museum in Los Angeles about 6 months ago. And today is the groundbreaking. So her and Michelle went down there, and it was a $50 million conduit bond. So they're very honored to be there today. I know they left about 6:30 this morning out of Sacramento. So I have this, and I'm glad to do this. So how many of you are familiar with CalEd? Well, that's great. I know a lot of you are members. CalEd is the largest economic development association in California, and probably the USA as well. We're almost up to 900 members, which is my charge and gets a little hectic keeping up with all of you with job changes and title changes and what you're doing. We're established in 1980, and what we do is teach economic developers, elected officials, and state representatives the value of economic development and how it's used to grow business, generate revenue, which supports community programs and creates and retain quality jobs. Now that sounds really simple, right? I mean, we all get it, but a lot of people don't understand what economic development really means. So I don't know why it's become such a controversial term sometimes. Oh, it's economic development, you know, but that's what we do, and we are the backbone of many communities. I have a handout in the back that kind of tells what we do and who we are. So we were established in 1980. A lot of the things that we've done in the past year include legislation and then promoting and making people understand what economic development is. So with legislation this year, we really championed some meaningful legislation that has to do with Surplus Lands Act. Does anybody have any issues with Surplus Lands Act? I'm sorry, Ricardo. Just a couple issues. So this year we championed legislation to kind of do some cleanup of that. We didn't get everything that we wanted, but we hope to again this year with some cleanup language. We know that there are legislators out there that want to push their own programs. And I mean, we understand with SLA and the Housing Community Development that you know, housing is important, right? I mean, we need places to house our workers, but not at the detriment to all of you being able to create buildings or industrial uses that will create jobs. So we do a lot of things in the realm of legislation. We always analyze the governor's budget, so that's going to be coming up here shortly in January, and his May revise. And we look to see what monies are there or budgeted for economic development. We keep everybody informed as a member, and we hold at least one webinar a month. I believe it was last week we did an SLA webinar on what those changes were that the governor signed. So that was an hour-and-a-half webinar and went through all the little details of when you are ready to dispose or sell a property that your city or county owns, what that will take now, what the restrictions are and the rules that you need to follow. The other thing with development is there's always this pot of money for industrial development bonds. And sometimes if it's not used, it goes back into iBank. So this year, we had an opportunity to finance a small business in Lincoln, California, wholly owned by a family up there. It's coffee roasting, and we were able to secure and had to fight for $30 million of that to do a bond, and that did go through. We do engage in the SURF program, or what is now known as California Jobs First, on behalf of economic development practitioners. So one of the big things that we've done this year is really to try to educate not only electeds, but the general public on what economic development is. So that's been one of our big focuses this year. If you go to our website at caled.org, you'll see a cute little, I don't want to call it a cartoon, but a very cute video of what economic development is in very layman's terms, because some people don't understand. And you're welcome to, you know, look at it, ask permission if you can use it, or link to our website. And we've done other things like that in the past as well. Some graphics that are there that show what economic development does. So back to our CETA program, we do a lot of economic development financing, primarily for nonprofits such as the Holocaust Museum. And the other thing we did this year is we created a new division called PD and F, not to be confused with PDFs. It's called Project Development and Finance. And we're focusing on that with advocacy, technical assistance, and education around how do you put a project together. I mean, there's a lot of financing tools. I know you're familiar with them, but we are really focusing on that this year. In fact, we held, in October of 2022, we held our first summit meeting in Riverside, California. Then when we had our conference this year in Los Angeles, we had one day that was dedicated to that. And again, in January in Sacramento, it's part of a 2-day event where we'll have the summit again, and members and non-members can go. And we have great speakers that talk about how to put a project together. The second day of that is my specialty, which is rural economic development. And so we'll do our rural exchange again. And the reason we have rural exchange is a lot of rural communities feel that they don't fit in the box of regular economic development for urban and suburban communities. So they have their special things that they need, particularly infrastructure, Wi-Fi, roads, jobs, that kind of thing. So we meet usually about 3 times a year. We just met in Ukiah in September and had about almost 80 people there just to talk about their special problems and needs for rural communities. We do hold these briefings on occasion. We do have Webinar Wednesday, normally the first Wednesday of every month. And we call on other practitioners to deep dive into some kind of special project or special financing. One we did recently was AI. Everybody wants to know how you use AI in your business. So we've had people that do that. So then we have the Rural Exchange, and we do go out and present to groups like you. We were down in Southern California earlier this year and presented to the San Gabriel Valley people. Gerbax does go around and either on video or in person talk to economic development staff as well as council people about economic development. We do have a program, and if you need it, let me know, and I'll get you in touch with Gerbax and Michelle about educating your elected officials. Do we have any elected people here? About economic development. So sometimes they all know what they want in economic development for the community, but it's how to get there. The handouts I have, which I'm kind of reading from, are in the back of the room. But one of the things that we did, and your mayor held up the book, was our TIF financing. No, Zach, it's over here on the back. It's this blue one. It's our second edition of TIF financing. Thank you. We wrote the first one about 5 years ago, and because of all the changes in the laws, we have an updated copy. So, I don't know where I am in 20 minutes. I mean, I've got time? Okay. So what we do is we really track bills and how it affects economic developers like you guys. And we'll educate you on it, tell you what's going on. We have a weekly e-newsletter. The Finance and Real Estate Committee, or the PD&F, is something that if you're a member, you can join and sort of shape what that committee does in the educational roles. And then the technical assistance that we do is trainings for communities as well as the elected officials. Now, where our training also goes, we have 2 programs. We have what we call the KEYS course, which is basic economic development course that we hold once a year in conjunction with Fresno State. And so we just held that in Lily. Yeah, George was there. I think Lily was at the advanced course. How did you like it, George? So we do that once a year, and we had a totally full class. We had 60 people. So we do it both in person and hybrid. And so if you're interested in that, you need to email Helen. It's helen@calat.org. She's in charge of that program, and it fills up. I mean, it fills up really fast. So if you're thinking about it, as soon as it comes out, sign up for it because it does fill quickly. And then after the class, we have also an advanced class, Advanced Institute. And it's a full week, and it's also hybrid or in person in conjunction with Fresno State. And it's more of a deeper dive into economic development. I got to take both of the courses. I took the advanced course during COVID. And once you take the courses, both of them, and you have enough background and experience, you're eligible to take the accredited economic development test. And I was telling Lily earlier, think of it as a presentation to a city council. And so you present your case, and you have a couple of members of the academy, and the academy is part of CalEd, who does education. And then if you pass, you get to use the ACE designation. But besides the designation, it's really in-depth economic development programming. You'll learn everything about performers. And I mean, I know you all know a lot of this, but it's really a deep dive. And Lily's nodding her head. Thank you. Again, we have the resources. Our website is full of resources. If you have an issue or a problem, contact one of us, Michelle, Helen, myself, or Gerbax, and we can help you through it. And that's pretty much it, George. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Stephen is one of our board members. And let's see, I'm looking. Hi, yes.
Oh, my question is about CalEd, our conference next year. Can you give us a little preview? It's my favorite, so.
I can. When we get back from Thanksgiving vacation, we're starting the planning on it. It is at the Hyatt Wine Country, Santa Rosa, which is right off of downtown. Very nice hotel. And we'll be making an announcement. And thank you for asking that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. Let's give her a hand. Thank you so much again. Now, a couple of items I want to mention. One is the event. This forum is being videotaped by Contra Costa Television, and we won't be posting this on the television channel. It's more for us to have digital assets and also to provide this information for those who may not have been able to attend today, but also want to hear all this information that we have available. And in my excitement of initiating the program, I realized that we skipped one little area, which is to do introductions, so we can know who all's in the room. So, plus, thanks, Laura, for the presentation. It gave us time for some other folks to join us, so I think it's a good time now to initiate introductions. All right? Thank you.
Good morning, Elizabeth Lopez, City of San Pablo. I'm a management analyst for housing and economic development.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Chow, Chief of Staff to Supervisor Carlson, here with the county. Welcome to District 4.
Good morning, Mark Orcutt, President and CEO, East Bay Leadership Council.
Good morning, Lindy Johnson, Director of External Affairs, Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
I'm Beth Arman. I'm the Senior Dean for Career and Community Partnership at Diablo Valley College. Our Pleasant Hill campus is just down the street.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bill Bankhead. I'm the Workforce and Economic Development Manager at Los Medanos College.
Good morning, Stephen Griswold. I am Supervisor Burgess's Senior District Representative coming up from East County.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyle. Kyle M. I'm Management Analyst with the City of Richmond.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ricardo Noguera. I'm the Economic Development Manager with the City of Brentwood.
Hi, good morning. I'm Gail Israel, Chief of Staff to District 2 Supervisor Candace Anderson.
Good morning, Marie Suvanson, City of Concord Economic Development.
Good morning, Alyson Greenlee, Economic Development Manager, Contra Costa County. Thanks for being here.
Rowe-Cole Rowe, Membership and Rural Exchange Coordinator, CalEd.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Charles Brown. I'm a Business Services Representative with the Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa County.
Hi, I'm Tony Gomez with GOBIZ, the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. I'm a Business Development Specialist.
Vikrant Sood, Economic Development Manager with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission and Association of Bay Area Governments. Very happy to be here.
Zach Seal, Economic Development Manager for the City of Pleasant Hill.
Good morning, everyone. Stephen Bader, Executive Director of the East Bay Economic Development Alliance.
Good morning. I'm Lily Whalen. I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Pinole.
Good morning. My name is Brett Sweet, and I work in the Economic Development Department at the City of Antioch.
Hi, everybody. Jason Crapo, Deputy Director with the county's Department of Conservation and Development.
Good morning, everyone. Tim Rood, Community Development Director, City of Hercules.
Good morning. Tamia Brown, the Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa County, and I'm the Executive Director.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Robert Carrera, Economic Development Manager, City of Pittsburgh.
Morning, everybody. Abraham Salinas, Senior Analyst, City of Brentwood Economic Development Division.
Good morning, everyone. I present for Congressman John Garamendi, Senior District Representative for Richmond Office.
Good morning. Also with Congressman Garamendi's office, Eric Cortez, District Representative at the Richmond office as well.
Good morning, Tyler Wilson, Office of Congress Garamendi, District Representative. I'm out of the Fairfield office, but I cover Antioch, Pittsburgh, and Bay Point.
Hi, everyone. Elaf Yusuf, District Director for Assemblymember Wicks.
Jill Bergman, Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Martinez.
Good morning, Afsha Hamid, and I'm the Planning Director with the Town of Moraga, and I play multiple roles: economic development, affordable housing, planning, code enforcement. I had to let it all out. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Aisa Ashuri. I'm from the City of El Cerrito, and I'm the Housing and Economic Development Manager.
Good morning, Harumi Murata with the City of Oakley, Economic Development.
Good morning, Leslie Choi, Executive Director at the San Pablo Economic Development Corporation.
Good morning, I'm David Fraser, Chief of Staff in the Office of Supervisor Federal Glover, District 5.
Great, thank you everyone for that. And also we want to thank our CCTV staff for helping to support this meeting, this forum here. Yeah. And it's also good to know who's in the room and who you need to connect with the network, so glad we have that. And speaking of networking, we want to now have our an update from the East Bay Economic Development Alliance, East Bay EDA, and it'll be Stephen Bader, who's the Executive Director, who was also with our Workforce Board, served as our Director for our Workforce Board for a number of years, and now has been with East Bay EDA for a number of years. So welcome, Stephen, to the podium, please. Thank you.
You can do that full screen, maybe? Yes. Okay. Yep. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. We got a good group here. Nicely done, Alyson and George. This is great. Yes, so as George mentioned, I'm Stephen Bader. I'm the Executive Director of the East Bay Economic Development Alliance, or East Bay EDA. And I'm really going to spend most of my time today talking about an initiative that we've been working on for the last couple of years and unveiled pretty recently at our annual membership meeting. So apologies in advance for those of you who were there. Who was there, by the way? Just so I'm curious. Okay, not too many of you. Good. Because yeah, I'm really going to kind of dig in a little bit deeper into this project, which actually began as a initiative with some funding from the U.S. Economic Development Administration. We're now 2 years in. We have one more year to go on it, and we've been doing a lot of great work to really map and understand the region's manufacturing ecosystem. So with that, let me go move us along. I'll try to stand a little bit out of the way if you all can, because I realize I'm a better door than window. But really, this project, you all can read. I'm not going to obviously read things off of here, but the purpose really of this initiative was to really better understand and map and help support and buffer and develop more resilience and sustainability in our region's manufacturing sector. And I don't know if you know this, but manufacturing is actually one of the only sectors in the Bay Area that's actually had job growth in the last 3 years. It's about 11% according to EDD. And you can look at different numbers and slice it and dice it differently. But I'm not going to say that when we applied for this grant, we knew that was what was going to happen. But I think, for obvious reasons, given what we went through the last couple of years, manufacturing and supply chains and all that proved their relevance and importance very, very clearly and cleanly. Just for those of you, welcome to take pictures, but we will, I think, distribute the slides, and a lot of this information, too, is up on our new website. Just to kind of give you a sense of sort of what I'm going to really talk about today is a little bit kind of a mapping of some work we've done around industrial lands, because there's some very interesting interrelationships between industrial lands, building typology, and industry growth, but also talk a little bit, too, about some of the subsectors that we kind of dug into in more depth. I think this is an important slide just because when we talk about the East Bay, it's really important to understand that, and you all know this, but it's a region of many different communities and many different actually economic sort of sub-regions. As for purposes of this analysis, we divided up the East Bay into really sort of 7 sub-regions. Although, as you can see, of course, we're in the context of industrial lands, we're mapping it kind of just as the northern waterfront as one main sector. But in any event, you can all, the purpose really, I think, to point out here is that there's a very interesting interrelationship between the different subregions around the East Bay and how they've helped to support and grow the manufacturing sector over time. Again, hopefully you can see this. I know the numbers might be a little small, but we did take a look. You heard what I said about job growth, and actually you can see some of the numbers here even higher because this is actually a 10-year range, not a 3-year. But we've really taken a look at, as it says up here, life sciences, manufacturing, transportation, distribution, logistics, and kind of understanding again the growth and the real estate and building typology needs and sort of how that's mapped over time. And this really speaks to it. You can see here, really, there's been job growth in practically every subregion of the East Bay. I hate to say it, the one exception is actually the northern waterfront here in Contra Costa County. But we are pretty bullish on where this is going to go. And I think in a little bit I'll mention that, I know that our organization, as well as the Contra Costa County Department of Conservation Development, is working with ABAG MTC on some upcoming work on what are called their priority production areas, on their industrial lands, and really how to help prime and get those ready for development. We're leveraging all the work in this grant and all the research we've done to really help to support that. And we're hopefully, just like all of you, very bullish on what kind of growth opportunities there may be over time in this region. So more to come on that. Obviously, what stands out the most on this chart, and is driven certainly by any of you who drive Teslas, I know there might be a couple of you in the room, but Tesla's growth has really helped to really explode manufacturing in southern Alameda County. And, and so all the suppliers, and it's really kind of clustered around there. It's obviously not just about them, but you're seeing lots and lots of really kind of spin-off, not just companies, but even industries starting to emerge from some of the innovation that's happening. So this is a more of a kind of mapping of where there's been recent, and it's probably a little hard to see, but this is up again on our website, where there's been new buildings built in the last 10 years, because really the buildings that really advanced industries require now have such incredible power requirements, such other really kind of infrastructure needs and so forth, that a lot of older buildings aren't necessarily equipped to kind of accommodate some of these newer industries. And so that was something we were really kind of curious about, and kind of mapping and understanding kind of how this has helped to inform and drive some of the growth that we've seen. And as you can see here, as much as I know some areas have really been pushing back on warehouse development, the truth is that warehouses actually are some of the most flexible spaces around, and they aren't just necessarily for, shipping your Amazon goods to and from your house or wherever, but there's lots of other use cases for them. So I just would caution that one of the things that we learned in this research, and I know some of you were actually a part of this in focus groups that we did, but is that really don't just assume that warehouse development in and of itself is a bad thing. Because I know that there have been moratoriums in certain areas, and maybe for some good reasons, given very specific context in those communities, but overall, it's something just to be sort of eyes wide open about and not just make blanket assumptions or generalizations. Some of the other things, again, this is sort of stuff that we all know, but it's a good reminder of kind of what are some of the strengths in the East Bay, what are some of the challenges. One thing I think that's not necessarily up here that I would point out to as well is, because I was talking about this yesterday with somebody, is that the manufacturing sector across the East Bay, it's very, very diverse. We're not Detroit. We're not concentrated in one sector. We have lots of sectors. We've got biomedical. We've got food and beverage. We have automotive. We have clean tech. We have electronics equipment. And there's many, many other sectors. And they're all growing at a pretty good clip right now. Some are much bigger than others, but really the fact that the diversity is a real strength, and it's one of the reasons I think we've seen that continued growth and sustainability in the region. Something else, and I didn't get into a lot of detail on this, and I won't right now, but for those of you here who are working with, there's a couple of you I know who are in planning departments or work a lot with your planning departments, we do have a lot of tools and resources up on our website around some of the work that you can do to help kind of prepare your city to be more ready to bring in some of these new companies, because it's not an accident that there's been growth in some of these regions, like Fremont, for example, which kind of, if many of you probably know, really has this reputation of being very business friendly and helping to streamline and really expedite a lot of permitting and development. So you can go to the website's up, it's live. If you go to our main website, there's a link, I think so at the top, a bar, but it's resilienteastbay.org. There's this industrial lands analysis that has a couple of the maps and bar charts that you saw up here earlier. And there's also lots, again, of other resources, toolkits, et cetera. So I won't belabor that too much. But yeah, this is up. I don't think I might have added an extra slide here, but again, you can see this up on our site. There's lots of great information on the industrial land's relationship with job growth, and I think it's something that all of you probably would be interested, especially if you're in communities that are trying to bring in some of these companies and sectors. The phase 2 piece, yes, I got a little bit ahead of myself here, but the toolkit that we have, again, there's some tools around planning, zoning, and some other things, and so there's a lot, and even a few case studies for you to take a look at as well if you're interested, again, in looking at how you can help to support bringing in some of these companies, trying to attract them into your communities. Obviously, it's going to take a lot more than that, but the better positioned your cities and communities are to help support these companies as they want to come in, the faster, obviously, things are going to help to gel and come together. And so here you see kind of down here, this is just kind of an image of that page on our website that's getting broken out in some different pieces. And something else to really emphasize, and I think that's one of the reasons that we're all here today and do this work, is that there really is a strong synergy between everything from the upstream work around planning and zoning to the work that's done around sort of business development and investment, and then obviously on the workforce and talent development pipeline. I know we have Los Medanos in the room. We have the Workforce Development Board. There's some great examples. Of course, DVC2, not to overlook you all. I know you just started your Tesla program very recently, as a matter of fact. But there's been, I think you all have been doing the kinds of things that really help to support that ecosystem and help our whole region thrive and do better. So yeah, here's just, again, a couple things around the toolkit. You can tell I haven't done this presentation too many times yet, but that's kind of a quick overview around that. And I don't know if I have too many other slides. Yeah, so this is just, again, another, if you go deeper into the website, you'll get some other things that I think, again, very concrete things that we tried to bring together to help support all of you as you're looking at these industries yourselves and thinking about how to bring in companies. Also about financing. It was great to have Laura talk at the beginning about what CalEd's been doing around that, and definitely I think they're probably an underutilized resource for all of us, and given what is happening now in the financial markets, I think IDBs are probably going to become a much more viable funding source over time for a lot of these kinds of things to gel and take hold. And yeah, so again, we've done a lot of very deep work. I don't want to bore you with the details, but that's kind of sort of a quick flyover of that. What's ahead is really kind of looking, as I mentioned, working with ABAG and MTC to kind of go to the next phase of this and think about how we can prepare. In our case, we're focusing East Bay DA on the 880 corridor as well as Livermore and some of that work, but we're going to be working very, very closely with Contra Costa, and of course, Vikrant Sood's here in the room from ABAG MTC to really make sure that we make good on maximizing the value opportunities of these industrial lands, because we actually have the East Bay really is home to most of them in the whole Bay Area. And so this is our opportunity, and I think we'd be smart to embrace it. I would be remiss if I didn't make a plug for our signature event, the East Bay Innovation Award that's coming up in March 2024, March 28th to be precise. That's a Thursday. We finished our nominations very recently, thanks to all of you who helped to support and get those nominations in. We have our judging day coming up on December 1st, and we'll be announcing finalists shortly thereafter. I'd love to see all of you. We're going to be at the Scottish Rite Center this year. Normally we've had this event at the Fox Theater, but we're going to be over by the lake in a very beautiful space that actually accommodates more people. So we look forward to seeing many of you and look forward to making our announcements very soon on our finalists. And I think that's my last slide. So I will stop and see if there's questions. I don't know how I was on time, but thank you. Jason.
Recording.
Stephen, I was just curious, there's been so much money, federal money, available over the last couple of years through the big pieces of legislation adopted. The stories that I hear in the news mostly focus on other parts of the country, the Midwest, the South. What opportunities are there for California? We've got over 10% of the population of the country living in California. The Bay Area is, a huge part of California. What's being done in the Bay Area to take advantage of those opportunities, and what role can we all in this room play in that?
It's a great question. Well, obviously, many of the jurisdictions here in the room, benefited from, ARPA funding initially, but of course there's been the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Jobs Act, there's been the CHIPS Act, and I know anecdotally some of you have actually requested us to help provide letters of support, either to companies you're working with or other projects and initiatives you're leading on. I think we're starting to see some of those investments now start to kind of take hold. I think longer term, I think it's very clear we're not going to be able to rely. This is kind of a one-time type of deal, and I don't think we're going to, the idea hopefully is that these funds will help to seed some other new investment that comes behind it. But it's definitely going to be, we're definitely in for a rougher time as we get on the other side of those funds really being out, sort of in action. And that includes, of course, the state itself is making major investments in infrastructure and sort of leveraging on top of some of those dollars to really be able to put a lot of things in play. And I think the hope is that those infrastructure investments will allow some of the kind of development that we're analyzing and you all are familiar with to really start to grow and accelerate. But again, I don't know that we can really count on a lot more federal support. And of course, even the state budget I know is a little bit dicey at the moment, given the fact that we're still really trying to understand the tax returns and how those are coming in. But I am curious how, if any of you've had, sort of your own success stories, especially with more of the recent, like the Inflation Reduction Act, CHIPS Act, or other things around with some of those funds. I don't know if that's a discussion item for now or something maybe to come back to at a later point, but I think it would be worth for us all to know a little more about some of those things. Other questions? Yeah, Vikrant. Ah, yes, PG&E.
Use the mic for this one.
Okay. Is that a question? No. Yeah, no, it's no secret that PG&E has been, and actually really throughout the state, all the utilities have been bottlenecks, strangleholds on some of the development, especially as folks are either trying to expand or move into a new facility. We actually had a PG&E representative at our event in October to talk a little bit about that. I guess the short of his message is, or was, and I think would still be right now, if you know that there's going to be a project coming down the pike in your community, you want to let PG&E know now, because it will take a while. They candidly admit, it's probably a 5-year timeline for certain things. It can be shorter, depending, but transformers take still about 2 years to get. So you've got some big, so just right away, if you're, that's a long time to wait. And as we know, time is money, particularly when we have interest rates at 8%. So, but I do think that PG&E, in fairness to them, I think that they understand how they're being at the moment unhelpful. Part of that, they will say too, is thankfully this past year we didn't have a lot of fires, but before it was really a lot of wildfire prevention and kind of responding to that. Having not had such an intense fire year this past year, hopefully they'll actually be able to start to make good on their promises to accelerate some of this permitting and development in what they call capacity. So.
I just wanted to speak a little bit and call back to the question over here. With the Inflation Reduction Act and the Jobs Act, one of the things that were written into those bills were communities left behind. So if you're thinking about how do we get those funds here, think about either racially, economically, how is the community you're trying to affect left behind, and make sure you're adding those into those requests that you're making for those kind of funds. Also, our office is available to help with letters of support as well. So information you need for that, reach out to our office. We have basically kind of the Sears catalog list of all those funds that were made available from those, and we can get you that information as well.
That's great.
If I can just add on to it, Congressman held meetings with all the elected officials and their city managers from all the cities across. One thing he found was the fact that grant writing was difficult, and a lot of cities were having problems with that. And he truly encouraged cities to combine efforts to write those grants, and our office will definitely write support letters for anything that you require. So grant writing seems to be a big hurdle for many of the cities.
Yep. David, are you doing another grant writing workshop soon? You are? Okay, this is your chance to make your plug. Okay, early spring. So David does a great grant writing workshop for anybody who didn't already know that. So, okay, other questions? I am mindful of time now. So, all right, great, thank you.
Thanks again, Stephen. Appreciate that. Yes, and so welcome everyone. Now I know some people came in after the initial part of the forum, so just want to make sure you know, just general logistics, that there is a restroom for Bible breaks. It's just right out the door here, and it's on your left-hand side. And again, this forum is being videotaped by Contra Costa Television, not to be aired on CCTV, but also to make sure we have digital assets so that those who aren't able to attend have a chance to view it in the future. Or if you want to see it for future reference, you have access to it as well. All right, make sure you please sign in. That way we have your contact information so we can follow back up with you. All right, so next we do have, excuse me, an update from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, the Association of Bay Area Governments, ABAG, better known. And this will be Vikrant Sood, and he's the Regional Economic Development Manager. Let's welcome him.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to lean a little bit because I'm still recovering from an illness. That is a very tough act to follow, Steve. I do not have a PowerPoint presentation, and partly that's because we are still in the process of figuring out what our role should be at the regional level. And I'll talk a little bit about the work that we have done in the last 12 months when we set up this program. But before I begin, I do want to address the question that was raised. There is a lot of federal and state funding that is coming down now and will come down over the next 5 years, and California is missing out on most of it. And part of that is that we're not organized and set up to get some of that funding, and some of it is because of policy decisions made at the federal level. So for example, when the first round of battery manufacturing subsidies were given out by the Department of Energy, it was about an $8 billion program. California got nothing, not one grant to set up any manufacturing or factory facilities here, even though all the research is being done in this state. The latest news is that the $500 million program for a tech hub, setting up a tech hub that was announced by the US EDA and the President's White House, President's Office White House. There will be no tech hub based in California. There was some grant given to the city of, the county of Riverside, but as of now, it doesn't seem like even a single tech hub will be located in California, and that is a policy decision. There is a perception that California and the Bay Area are rich communities and don't need federal and state help. And we haven't done a very good job of highlighting the need in some of our left-behind communities and disadvantaged communities that need investment. And need investment not only for the benefit of those communities, but also to accelerate the transition from the fossil fuels to clean energy, the decarbonization of the economy. So there is a very strong role that the Bay Area and California can play in federal policy outcomes, but the current federal policy and the state policy kind of disadvantages the Bay Area and California because of the perception that we don't need any help. So, I think we have to talk about how to influence some of that policy at the state and federal level to make sure that we are at least in the contention, we are at least in the running. Hundreds of billions of dollars have already been allocated, and we have to get our act together because trillions of dollars are going to be allocated in the next 2 or 3 years. And I agree with Stephen that this is one-time funding, but this is one-time funding to seed some of the, some of the economic development projects that can have long-term impacts, especially when it comes to infrastructure. So I'll stop there on that topic. Let me go back to just introducing myself. How many people know what MTC and ABAG is? Okay, most of you. So I will not get into a lot of detail on that, but MTC is the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the 9-county Bay Area. We developed the long-range regional transportation plan and the sustainable community strategy, which brings in the land use and housing component in the Bay Area as well. as the Association of Bay Area Governments, we represent all 109 jurisdictions in the 9-county Bay Area. And there are a number of programs, again, we run with the help of local jurisdictions. But our primary goal for ABAG is to help local jurisdictions achieve the goals that they have set for themselves. And economic development is something that has come up multiple times, so which is why we are trying to develop a regional program, but we are still looking for feedback on how we should fashion that economic development program, because we don't want to be stepping on toes. We don't want to be duplicating stuff. We want to add value. And one of the things we've heard repeatedly, and what we realize is our role is to help fund projects, both planning and implementation, that are aligned with local economic development goals, and also the convening role. And I'll talk a little bit about the projects that we are currently working on. As part of the MTC ABAG core work, like I said, we developed the Regional Transportation Plan and the Sustainable Community Strategy, which is called Plan Bay Area. In the latest version of Plan Bay Area, which is currently under being updated for the next 4 years, we have a few programs that align with economic development. First of all, we have an economic development chapter right now in a regional plan. It has placeholder policies for now, because we wanted to at least get a start on something. But I think as we do the major update in about 2-3 years, it would be important for folks who care about economic development at the local level and see a regional role in helping you achieve those goals. It would be important for you to speak up and identify those policies that MTC and ABAG can further. Let me just see quickly. ABAG is also designated as the Economic Development District for the 8-county Bay Areas. Sonoma County is its own Economic Development District. And I believe there are some local jurisdictions that have their own Economic Development Districts, but essentially as the region's designated district, we are required to do a comprehensive economic development strategy. That is just the requirement to continue to be designated as an EDD. And we will be embarking on that process soon. But why we care about staying as an economic development district is because that opens up access to a lot of state and federal funding. For example, there's a lot of projects, or I should say, there are a lot of grant programs at the USEDA where EDDs are eligible to apply, but not all other entities could. So for example, the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab is not eligible to apply for USEDA funds. So if you partner with LBNL and on a certain project, I will talk about that later, then we act as the pass-through entity. We can apply, we pass through all the funds, and that's one of our roles. Another of our roles is to support, provide letters of support for local projects, because a lot of the federal funding is now requiring that your projects are aligned with the local SEDS or the regional SEDS. Another of our efforts is to help write grants on behalf of our members. And again, I'll talk about that a little bit. What we have seen repeatedly, and this is what Steve also addressed, is that communities that have been left behind, the disadvantaged communities, also obviously don't have the capacity to go after these big grant awards. It's complicated, it's difficult to set aside staff to do just that grant writing work. And that is something we will try and address through some of the programs we have, but also as part of our EDD work. I should also mention that the Priority Production Area grant that Steve mentioned was another initiative that came out of the current Plan Bay Area work. And the idea is that given the spread of, or the distribution of jobs and housing in the Bay Area, there's a big imbalance in the East Bay. We have a lot of housing, not a lot of jobs. We don't have the right type of jobs. So if you're a person who doesn't have a college degree, there's very little opportunities for you to work within the Bay Area. Or actually, like even beyond that, there's not a lot of middle wage jobs in our economy. Manufacturing provides ladders towards middle wage jobs, and that's one of the things that we want to work on a little bit more. But the idea is if we can help East Bay communities grow good quality jobs, then the commute that is currently occurring for all the residents who live in the East Bay traveling to the West Bay, that can be addressed, and the greenhouse gas emission reductions that we get from that is a goal. So the priority production area grants are basically planning grants to communities in the East Bay to plan for receiving or getting, kind of planning for economic development in the future. So for example, the Northern Waterfront Initiative did get one of the grants, and the idea is that there is a lot of industrial land. Industrial land can be redeveloped with investments to be job centers for middle wage jobs, and that serves the local communities that currently don't have that kind of access to career ladders or economic opportunities. We are participating in the California First, Jobs First, the rebranded California Jobs First process. And I'm guessing Tamia will speak a little bit more about that. So I won't get into a lot of detail, but it's a $600 million investment by the state to support grassroots level or bottoms up economic development work entirely focused on, or almost entirely focused on, the clean energy transition and the opportunities that are provided by the clean energy transition. For jobs that are classified as high road jobs, and again, I don't know how many people are familiar with the terminology. It keeps changing. 10 years ago, it was middle wage jobs with benefits. Now it's high road jobs. And that effort is ongoing, and there will be a pot of money at the end of the planning work, which will take another year, where communities can then apply for implementation funding. And just on that, so MTC helps local communities with planning money, like the priority production area grants, but also with implementation work. And we want to do more in terms of that implementation work, because we see, so the reason we formed this regional economic development program at MTC ABAG was because of all the federal legislation and the state legislation that are targeting clean energy transition and the decarbonization of our economy. It's, as one of my colleagues says, once in a lifetime opportunity to make change in one generation. And that's a huge potential we don't want to miss. Keeping that in mind, we are starting to do some pilot projects. Now, again, it's very ambitious of us to do that. We don't really have the staff, but the idea is, again, play the convening role to bring stakeholders together to identify projects and then help them apply for state and federal funding for implementation. And one of the things I will talk about today is what we call the next generation battery manufacturing, solid state battery manufacturing innovation hub. And many of you actually provided letters of support for that proposal, so you might already be familiar with it. But the idea is that entities like the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab do a lot of research work. But when the commercialization of that research, we get to that stage, the companies and the facilities and the jobs have gone overseas. Now, if we want to bring those jobs back to the US for various reasons, we won't get into that, national security, whatever reason, we now have an industrial policy at the federal level for the first time, and the money to back it up. So the idea is to work with institutions like Lawrence Berkeley National Lab on projects that they are working on, funded by the Department of Energy, that can help meet our local goals. So for example, if we are able to locate a technology hub in Contra Costa County, let's say on the Richmond Field Station or somewhere on the Northern Waterfront, then that will help grow the jobs over time. So it's, right now we're talking about one facility, but we're also looking at bringing the private sector in. So over time, with the supply chains and the ancillary activities, it could really grow into something that, a cluster of industries that can provide long-term economic development opportunities for Contra Costa County and Solano County. Of course, we need help from the workforce development boards. We need help from local cities. Some of the work that Stephen mentioned in terms of streamlining local policies for approvals for new development, cleaning up our sites, making infrastructure investments. There's a lot of work that is involved in putting all that together. But we hope that you will be partnering with us on that to make it a reality. The next steps on that proposal is to now start applying for federal and state funding. There is a Department of Energy grant where they will allocate $50 million towards this facility. So I won't get into the detail, I can provide you information about that, but the first step is to develop a facility that brings together research, prototyping, workforce development, training, all sorts of activities under one umbrella in one facility. And for that, we can access this $50 million from the Department of Energy. There is the California Energy Commission pilot work, pilot battery manufacturing assembly line program that also provides about $35 million towards the same activity. One of the things we have run into is we will be doing a site selection process soon, but one of the things we've run into is, again, where do we get the power from? We can work on the infrastructure improvements, we can work on cleaning up sites, assembling parcels, providing transportation infrastructure, but the power issue has become a bigger and bigger problem. So as an example, Lawrence Berkeley National Lab would like to locate that facility on the Richmond Field Station because they own the land, but they've been waiting for 10 years for a substation upgrade. So all of this work, so they were ready to put a research facility in that place 10 years ago. And now we have a bigger kind of proposal, but at least for that facility itself to be located somewhere, we don't have the power. So another pilot we're working on is community microgrids for industrial users, and that's something that we want to work with PG&E on. They do have $200 million from the state to fund projects like that, where it's not just one facility, it's multiple facilities or an area like an industrial park that comes together and kind of creates a microgrid that serves that industrial park, and it is entirely powered by renewable sources. And we think every obstacle like that could be turned into an economic development opportunity. So that itself will be an industry that will grow to provide grid stabilization solutions, including grid energy storage solutions. And that itself could then be the cluster or an ancillary cluster with the battery hub. So let me just stop there and see if there are any questions. And I think I'm going to lose my voice. Yes.
I hear you saying that PG&E has been a major bottleneck. Is there any opportunity to work with the community choice aggregators like MCE, or I know East Bay Community Energy just changed its name to something like ADA, I think. Are those entities able to get into this arena to generate the power necessary for industrial facilities like that?
I think yes and no. They have to be part of the solution, but I don't think without PG&E we can kind of solve the issue because the pipeline, so to speak, the transformers and the cables and everything is owned by PG&E. Just as an example, BART, the transit agency, has a goal of getting all of their power from renewable sources in the next 10 years. They've already hit the 50% mark. And they started to think about that as an alternative to PG&E because in 2019, when the grid collapsed, the entire service for BART stopped. And that's not something that we can, like from a climate, but also from a economic resilience perspective, that's an unacceptable outcome. So the way they're doing it is they are directly purchasing power from providers in the Central Valley, actually Bakersfield. Wind farms, solar farms. But the issue is you can buy that clean energy, but it still has to transition through the PG&E infrastructure to get to BART. And if that grid collapses, it doesn't matter where the power is generated and how clean it is, it's just not going to get to your location. The city of San Francisco tried to just buy out PG&E's infrastructure, and that didn't go really far. So I think for now, we have to find solutions working with PG&E. And the community choice aggregators like Marin Energy, again, they buy electricity from providers in the Central Valley. It's all renewable energy, but that energy still goes through PG&E's infrastructure. And it's the grid stability and reliability that is the biggest issue. It's not the power generation, because that is already being tackled. It's the infrastructure itself that needs to be addressed. And we think like something like a community microgrid could help be not only a backup, but also a primary source of power for something like industrial and commercial uses.
That's what I was getting at, was building microgrids for new facilities that are not necessarily part of PG&E's infrastructure. Can you do that?
Absolutely. There are some technical challenges to that. Not every organization can go and purchase power. Very few entities in the state can actually do that in the open market. ABAG, surprisingly, is one of them. BART is another one. And then the community choice aggregators can also do that. I think what we are kind of looking at is maybe the Calistoga model, where the city of Calistoga, because of the wildfires and the power issues they've had in the past, kind of now just the entire city of Calistoga is a community microgrid. So they get power, but the infrastructure is still owned by PG&E, but there is a switch, right? So if PG&E goes down, the switch flips, and all of Calistoga is going to be now served by their own backup, which is all renewable energy and batteries and whatnot, through PG&E's infrastructure. But there is a cutoff. So the grid in Calistoga will not collapse just because the rest of PG&E's infrastructure collapsed. So we can talk about the details, and we're putting together some proposal for pilot projects in Contra Costa County and Solano. So we'd be happy to talk to you about that. And there is funding to now implement some of those ideas. So, there are details we'll need to talk to Marin Community Energy and PG&E about, please.
So thank you, and we've spoken on the phone before. And I'm glad you're saying ABAG and MTC is now talking economic development as opposed to TOD along the BART stations, because we definitely need economic development along the 4 corridor. You mentioned implementation funds. I have 200 plus acres of land shovel ready to go. Just responded to an RFP from Cal, GoBiz, Project Sunday, correct, on Monday. But anyway, my challenge with the alternative energy formula is that many of the jobs, and that's why many of these companies have gone to Idaho and to Nevada, because they're looking for storage. They're looking to store, and you can see this when you drive that 5 going towards LA. You see it right in Fresno County and so forth. Our land is too valuable to be putting these solar panels on several acres of land. We're not creating jobs. So if there are opportunities where we can attract industry, create good paying jobs, and we have expensive land, we're all in about getting involved in the alternative energy and creating some type of a campus.
Sorry, I didn't get the question in that.
That was more like a comment. That was more a comment.
That makes sense.
About the
Well, we will be seeking implementation funds because there is a pot of money that the state has set aside for PG&E to fund those kind of projects. Just as an example of like how some of this works together in Solano County, we are looking at a pilot where, there is a wastewater treatment plant, which is close to an industrial park, which is close to a high school, which is next to a Amtrak station. And the idea is you connect all those facilities and areas with one community microgrid. It is not only something that supports the economic development goals, because actually if you put in your microgrid, your energy cost halves. It's half what you pay PG&E. And even if you don't use only that renewable source of energy, you still reduce your peak loads. So there's a lot of money to be saved, and that's a direct subsidy to any economic development entity. So like I was saying, so if you have these facilities, there is an interest in creating places for climate resilience. So a school is a place where you go to shelter when there is a climate event. The transit system needs to continue to operate, which is Amtrak. There is local sources of energy. So even if most of the solar panels are on top of buildings and in the Central Valley connected to your microgrid, you can capture the methane from the wastewater treatment facility and generate electricity, in whatever form. Either you create green hydrogen or you actually create the energy to power the microgrid. The problem being currently, by current law, the wastewater treatment facility cannot sell electricity or energy to anybody. Not even PG&E. You need special, so there are some regulatory problems, but we're looking at these multiple outcome objective kind of projects that can then be funded by the state because there is money, right? There was $60 million that was given out by the state in, I think, July for projects like that. There is money, so every time you pay into your utility bill, there is a certain amount set aside for clean energy programs. So resilient libraries, for example, is a project that could be funded. Anyway, I won't go into too much detail. We can talk about that afterwards. I just want to make sure I'm out of time.
Just, if I may, one question from a policy standpoint. We've been having conversations in Contra Costa County over the past several years about what we prioritize in terms of economic development. If you look at far east Contra Costa County, the emphasis has been on not commercial so much development, but more housing, right? Residential. So if you look at cities like Pittsburgh and Antioch, those represent the greatest areas of development. New residential in Pittsburgh now, multifamily units right there on the railroad and elsewhere. That's been the focus. Now, what that does is that it essentially has brought individuals from the western part of the county and other counties, Alameda, San Francisco, to East Contra Costa County. The other piece, so that's one, the housing piece. The other part is transportation. That's certainly one of your areas of purview, and my boss sits on the MTC board and has been there for several years. And there has been, correctly so, a focus on beefing up the transportation infrastructure. But the question, though, is that has that beefing up of the transportation infrastructure not further, in fact, facilitated movement of people who have come from west to East County to now live, to simply commute back west to work? Because there's not much happening here in terms of actual jobs development. So the question is, with the emphasis on transportation and housing, could it be that in some ways, from a policy standpoint, we're doing more to exacerbate the problem than to actually solve it?
We're on camera, so I can't comment on that. But yes, I think if you look at the current Plan Bay area, there is an emphasis on creating jobs around transit as well. Especially in the East Bay, the idea is that if we grow more jobs in the East Bay, including in Contra Costa and Solano County, that they should cluster around transit because, again, we are driven by the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. What we would argue from the economic development program perspective is not all jobs can be located next to transit, and the type of manufacturing jobs that we are looking at that can provide the, what this area needs for the workers who live here currently, those are more dispersed and are not always served by the traditional model of transit. But locating those jobs here will cut down on the commute of folks who are going now to the West Bay, who will now have to just get to the job on the East Bay, close to where they live. That reduces greenhouse gas emissions as well. So there are various ways of looking at it. I think if you have a perspective, I would say please voice that perspective. There are multiple forces that push, the commission towards certain policies, and I think the counter argument hasn't really been aired as much and as forcefully, I would say. Yes.
Just David, you go off.
Real quickly, we're about 5 minutes, yeah.
David, just to go off your point, I was going to wait till the roundtable, but I think it's urgent that I say this now. Yeah, you are absolutely spot on in that, we're in this inflection point where we're seeing, from the city of Pittsburgh, so yes, everything is 100% spot on, where we're seeing this urgency to create more housing, but it's also in contention with what's been happening in our industrial area, which has been occurring for decades. So for a little bit of context, our industrial areas to the north, along the northern waterfront, have been dominated by two companies for nearly 100 years. One is U.S. Steel, the other is Corteva, formerly the Dow Chemical Company. And for decades, we've just been slowly seeing disinvestment in those areas. And, with the U.S. Steel plant up for sale, and then Corteva is essentially downsizing their operations, but they're leasing it out to other industrial uses. So we're glad they're continuing to invest in that. I just want to iterate the point when we talk about continuing to invest in our industrial lands. Our general plan, which is supposed to go through 2050, we talk about rezoning industrial areas. We are committed to keeping that area zone industrial for the next 30 years or so. The city has made a commitment to ensuring that that area remains industrial land. We want to see the future job centers in that area. We want to see jobs in that area. And I'll kind of speak a little bit more about that on our roundtable updates, but we are committed to ensuring that in the next 30 years or so, we continue to see job growth and innovation. And we're already seeing a lot of that attention as well, but I'll wait till the roundtable to talk more about it.
That's a good point. Just to think about, why did the Tesla battery plant not locate in the northern waterfront? There were lots of reasons why. The state wasn't going to provide subsidies for Tesla, so they went to a state that did provide subsidies. But I think there was a lot going for the Bay Area. And if you think about the city of Pittsburgh making a case versus the state of Nevada and the governor making the case directly, like there is, who do you take more seriously? And if you want to locate something in the city of Pittsburgh, do you have the parcels all assembled? Are they clean? Are they ready to be developed? So there's a lot of, I think, work we need to do to get things, I don't want to say shovel ready, because you have to shovel just to improve the infrastructure as well, so that people, companies can come and locate, and it's not a, but again, that's a case study of what do we need to do? We have, the Tesla, it's not a lost cause, obviously, because there are other businesses that will locate here. But again, what did not work there is worth pondering over.
Perfect. All right, well, I think that was perfect timing, and we're still a little ahead of schedule, but to make sure that we are able to complete our forum on time. Thank you. First, let's thank Vikrant for his information. Absolutely. The MTCA BAG has been a great partner, I know, with us in terms of our Northern Waterfront efforts. They've really been great in terms of partnering, so appreciate your partnership. Thank you again. All right, so as we mentioned, we did have a modification in the agenda. So we do have our Contra Costa County Department of Conservation Development, Economic Development Unit with a presentation update. And so I want to welcome Alyson Greenlee, our Economic Development Manager. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, George. Okay, so I'm going to try to get through these slides pretty quickly, but I wanted to provide an overview of today's presentation. One of the key things that's going on in the county's Department of Conservation and Development right now is the county's update of the draft general plan and climate action plan. So I'm looking at my notes because I'm not the expert by any means on this update, but it is super important, and you have brochures at your seats that describe the draft general plan and draft climate action plan. So it's really important. It's really important for business and industry moving forward. Some of the things that have taken place is that the land use designations have been consolidated. There's just a whole lot more information at Envision Contra Costa 2040. And George and myself and the economic development team, we work super closely with the sustainability coordinator, Jody London, our current planning, advanced planning teams, and we're looking forward to having more involvement with them moving forward. So I did just want to touch on the general plan and climate action plan because they're just so important, and they're really kind of like guideposts for economic development efforts as well. So with that, I'm going to launch into just some updates on economic development. So this comes directly from the county's general plan update. And I really love this statement. It says that the economic development policies and actions aim to develop the county's workforce, attract and support sustainable businesses and industries that provide those living wage or high road jobs, invest in hiring from the local workforce, and engage with communities. Investment in the diversified industries supports the as supported by economic development policy, promotes innovation, builds the tax base, and allows residents to work in the county where they live. So just want to recognize the county for their efforts on the general plan and the climate action plan, and just love this statement focused on economic development that comes right out of the general plan. One of the key things that the county is working on that comes right out of the climate action plan, the county declaration of a climate emergency in the year 2020, is the county's Just Transition Economic Revitalization Plan. It's led by the county sustainability committee, and there's more information that you can get by signing up for updates for the county sustainability committee and the sustainability commission. One of the things that's really key about a Just Transition Economic Revitalization Plan is that it's a process. It's a process, and most importantly, it's a process that seeks input from impacted communities and impacted workers. It's a set of strategies that seeks to address an historic injustice by seeking the sustained input of those communities most impacted by the environmental burdens of the climate crisis, and is a plan for improving the health, safety, infrastructure, and job opportunities for residents in these communities, and ultimately results in a plan for a transition away from an economy that is dependent on fossil fuels towards a zero-emission economy and an economy that supports clean and green energy. So that's what it is in a nutshell. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go into all the details of these various slides, but it is a 2-year planning process. It really starts and ends with community engagement and support, and so that's highlighted here. The communities that are highlighted here are where outreach will take place, and then connected to that is the county's Northern Waterfront Economic Development Initiative. I don't know if I need to go into too much detail in this room because I think most people are familiar with this initiative, but it is an initiative that is led by the county's ad hoc committee on the Northern Waterfront. There are various cities that are partners to the initiative, probably what makes it the most unique. And of course, it's an initiative to attract 18,000 new jobs to the Northern Waterfront by the year 2035. One of the key ways that the county is working to do that is through, thank you, MTC ABAG, planning through the priority production areas. So we've already discussed today the importance of infrastructure planning, power, transmission and distribution to attract those new clean and green sustainable industries. The county has, through partnership with MTC ABAG and the cities that are listed on this map, a grant to conduct some of that infrastructure planning for the priority production areas that are listed here. The county also has a policy on participating in enhanced infrastructure financing districts. This is a policy that has not been utilized yet, but it is a funding mechanism that exists in the county. We know that, CalEd, we're looking forward to attending your finance summit coming up in January to just kind of get more information and assets about how this tool can be utilized. Also, we've talked about how important cleanup of sites is. And so one of the things that the county is looking at is the cleanup and redevelopment of brownfields through various types of grants. We've been supporting a lot of different efforts, very interested in going after a grant ourselves to be able to attract some of that funding. The county is also home to a recycling market development zone. This allows for low interest loans to businesses. Probably another one of those things that's going to become even more relevant in the current financial market. It's also exciting because it provides things called zone incentive funds for companies to run pilot projects using recycled materials or waste materials to manufacture new products in the county's recycling market development zone. And then, of course, AB 844 was legislation at the state level that basically named out Contra Costa County, saying that it's a special economic development zone. It's a green empowerment zone for the development of clean and green energy. And so the county's support for the green empowerment zone is going to be really important moving forward. And I know that there are a lot of different entities in this room that are going to be part of that process as well. And I should mention too that it's funded to $5 million from the state of California. Lastly, our team, George and myself, work, super closely with a lot of the economic development managers in the room around retention, support, and attraction of business. Our team focuses specifically on the unincorporated parts of the county. We work through partnership and collaboration with you all in attraction and retention of businesses in other parts of the county, working super closely with the community colleges, with the Workforce Development Board as well. I listed some key data and resources for more information here. And then please reach out to us. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Perfect, thank you. Not really a question. I just really wanted to highlight, Alyson, you and your team's efforts to bring folks out, particularly to Far East County. I'm biased, but through the whole Northern Waterfront on tours and really showing off some of the potential that we have out there. And I want to encourage some of our regional partners and folks that if you guys are interacting with electeds and business leaders, to please make those connections and allow us at the local level to bring them out and really showcase some of the opportunity that we have across the Northern Waterfront, Byron Airport being one of them. So just wanted to highlight that and really emphasize that point. So.
Great job, Alyson. Thank you. Got us some minutes back. Thank you. Okay. Yes, thank you. All right, and so, be sure to give him some time back. Thank you, Alyson. All right, so so now we do have the update from the Contra Costa County Transportation Authority. That'll be with Lindy Johnson. All right, let me get you set up here, Lindy. Please welcome Lindy. Thank you. I'll get you ready.
Clicker. Perfect. Thank you. Good morning. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority is the transportation authority here in Contra Costa County. Look at that, reversed it. Most of your cities or organizations, including Garamendi's office, works with us in an array of different projects. There's obviously, as part of the measure, so we are a self-help county, right? Most folks pretty familiar with what a self-help county means, or should I talk a little bit about that? A little bit? Okay, I'll talk a little bit about it. I didn't get a ton of hands. So what that means is that we have a sales tax here in Contra Costa County, and that the sales tax revenue goes to the special district, which is us, the Contra Costa Transportation Authority, and we spend those revenues on transportation projects throughout Contra Costa. Most famously, we built the fourth bore, and we put, transportation and transit throughout East County via Antioch, BART, and actually previously to that, we actually built North Concord-Martinez BART station and the Pittsburgh station as well. So those are kind of major projects that are associated with CCTA, but as cities, you're probably pretty familiar with us because there's also return to source dollars. So for those of you who work in cities, you'll know that some of that revenue that is generated through that sales tax actually does come back to your cities and is often used for local roads and other projects. CCTA has become pretty synonymous with innovation, both within the state of California, nationally, but also internationally, partially because we have a lot of interest in autonomous vehicles and connected vehicles and kind of the future of transportation as it really relates to technology, which is pretty cool and exciting and new age. So the presentation I'm actually going to give today has to do with Gomentum 2.0. Another raise of hands here. How many of you have heard of Gomentum or are familiar with Gomentum Station? Very cool. Okay. Self-help counties? Meh. Gomentum Station, we're on it. So Gomentum Station is a pretty unique thing here in Contra Costa County. It's a space for folks to be able to test connected vehicles, AV vehicles. There's also like a whole lab that has to do with signals testing, so kind of some really smart and interesting technology related to signals and signals' ability to speak to cars that happens out there. It's a really kind of interesting partnership in that most of our partners are private companies out there and doing some really interesting work, but we often can't share who works out there and what they do, which means talking about Gomentum can be kind of a unique thing for us here at CCTA. Gomentum 2.0 is about investing in California's innovation future. And what that means is, as opposed to just saying, hey, we've got this nice testing site in Contra Costa, if you happen to be a private company who's interested in AVs, come out and hang out with us. We're saying, how do we continue to leverage this space and really this kind of technological innovation to really create economic development opportunities here in Contra Costa and to continue to grow this as a market and as a field within our community. Often in Contra Costa County, as we did today, we talk about how to get jobs out here. How do we kind of grow some of those opportunities? And this is CCTA's response to some of those questions. We want to be part of that conversation. We are really interested in the future of the workforce, both the AV and connected workforce, the larger transportation workforce, but also the cybersecurity workforce, right? And conversations about as we do continue to digitize most of our infrastructure, we're going to have to think about the needs of that infrastructure differently than we have in the past. So this is my presentation on Gomentum 2.0. So goals and objectives. So I kind of touched on most of this, but essentially it's about helping us plan for the future of these technologies and the future of our transportation systems, helping to identify regulatory reforms that are needed. I could get real in the weeds on this, but there is a lot of regulation that is continually being looked at and discussed and developed as it relates to AVs because they're new technologies. Also talking about like countywide transportation and the countywide transportation system and what the future of that will look like. So our partnership is unique, right? AAA has actually managed Gomentum Station. They've done a wonderful job of kind of managing our partners. It's also what helps us to keep the information of our partners private because there's like a separate manager who's in charge of that. It's not public information. Focused on roadway safety has been a huge priority out there. A lot of the testing that has been done has to do with like what is actually on the ground. And I'll get to a slide where we talk a little bit about what makes Gomentum really a unique and special place to talk about safety. And again, I kind of mentioned this, but AAA is important for the the structure because it enables that private investment for a public benefit. So let's talk a little bit about testing centers. So Gomentum Station is a testing center. We are not a proving ground, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what the difference of that is. But there are testing stations in other parts of the world, and we've done our best to learn from what's been successful at those spaces and places and what their learned lessons have been as we continue to develop Gomentum here in Contra Costa County. So this is kind of exciting, and we include this slide just to let folks know that there really is national attention on what's happening at Gomentum Station. We were thankful to have Secretary Buttigieg out to talk about that last year, and you can actually probably see a lot of your local elected representatives in that picture down there. It was a pretty exciting thing, I think, to have him out and to have these conversations, but it also really represents that he is interested in this work. And we've even seen some federal grants come out that have represented his interest in this space and the federal government's interest in this space. And we'd like to see that continue to be fostered, particularly if it's a place or an industry that we're looking to foster. So this is what Gomentum Station looks like kind of from a digitized aerial view. You can see there's these different stations, and our partners actually reserve those stations. So they'll go in and say, hey, we really need to do some work that has to do with a tunnel, and so we want to reserve the space that has a tunnel. We want to go in and work on some kind of more beat up gravel roads, so we want to reserve the station that has some of that space. So all of these are reservable, and they reserve them by the hour. This area down here that has all the flags, that's kind of right near Bunker City. For those of you who've been out to the Concord Naval Weapons Station, you're probably familiar with that area and what might make it kind of unique. There's a lot to navigate in that space. So this is some of what makes Gomentum really special and, again, kind of unique. There's gravel road that's pretty beaten up, and that actually can be really helpful and important, right? Because when you're talking about AV vehicles and they're learning, their sensors are developing, they're using LiDAR and things like that, it's important that they have things that might mess with those systems, to put it lightly. And it makes it a little bit easier for them when all of these roads are both kind of older but have new paint. Right, and that's what we've been able to do out in Gomentum Station. So there's a lot of, anyway, I could go deep into this, but it's probably not super important. There's a lot of information here that kind of gives you pictures of what it looks like to be out at Gomentum Station. So what kind of technologies do we test out there? Fully autonomous, commercial autonomous, which would include large trucks. Short distance logistics. So some of you have probably seen in Concord, they for a while had those great little robots traveling around in downtown. They still do, which is really cool. Things like that. So really kind of what does the future of delivery look like? Also some work being done in East County on the future of delivery. University-based research studies. So we work with UC Berkeley quite a lot out there. And then obviously kind of your traditional EV and ICE-powered vehicles, and just sort of looking at range testing with things that relate to your classic EVs. So this kind of gives you a sense of utilization. In January of 2021, that's how many hours were being kind of reserved. By the time you get to March 2023, it's kind of this continued upward trajectory. The reason I include this slide is just basically to illustrate that we have more need for this space than we actually do hours available for our partners. And that's a good thing because it shows that Gomentum is successful, but it's also a problematic thing because it means that we will eventually lose our partners because they're gonna say, you don't have the space that we need, you don't have the hours available that we need, and someone else is likely to be able to provide that, right? That is how competition tends to work. So what does that mean for Gomentum? It means that we think we need to evolve Gomentum. We need to say, what is the next step for this space? And that's a big vision, and I think CCTA is known for big visions, so it aligns with our work. Gomentum 2.0 is going to support both the state and Contra Costa County, as well as the Bay Area as a mega region in economic competitiveness and job growth. It means partnering with our communities to improve safety, mobility, and the environment, and creating a world-class testbed with active industry and government participation. I won't read all of these, but those are kind of the high-level intentions of Gomentum 2.0, which sounds nice, but I imagine most of you are like, okay, what does that mean? How are we going to do that, right? So that's where a proving ground comes in. CCTA has a vision for having a proving ground in Contra Costa County. What this would be is a much larger testing facility where you can do the kind of testing that you need to be able to certify vehicles. It also would allow them to test vehicles in a way that they can't currently, just given space restrictions. This was actually designed by a company in Spain. This is their proving ground in Spain. They have designed one for us to give us kind of a sense of what something in Contra Costa County could look like. This area right here is kind of continuous loop is incredibly important because it really helps vehicles be able to test speed and traction on kind of the right and necessary infrastructure. But you can see here, there's also like roundabouts, right? There's kind of windy roads. You're giving folks a lot of different abilities to test vehicles under different constraints. My understanding is they actually also will sometimes fill this area, this large circle, in with tiles, and that allows them to essentially simulate being on snow and ice, which is kind of interesting as well. So basically, this kind of gives you some of the different things that need to be tested for every vehicle that ever hits the road, right? We're talking about safety, active safety, powertrain, comfort, reliability. We all know that our vehicles are tested before we buy them, right? So the question is, where are they tested? Why are they tested in the way that they are? And what provides like the competitive edge for an area to bring that industry to them? So again, this is conceptual, but I'm excited to dive into it with all of you. So we did a pre-feasibility study. We have yet to do our full feasibility study, but the pre-feasibility did give us a lot of information, and that's what we're going to share with you today. Basically, it kind of gives you some preliminary site information, a sense of what operation and construction costs might look like, and then the most important thing, and the reason that we decided to share this here at this forum, is what is the economic impact of doing this if we were able to move forward. So here's some of the metrics that we looked at. What would be the job results? What kind of labor income would come out? What would the economic output be for the region as a whole? How would it impact GDP, taxes, employment multiplier, obviously just like a return on investment generally. And then kind of what would the level of impact be? And these are sort of things that I'm sure all of you talk about all the time. Real estate and finance, manufacturing, retail, wholesale, professional services, and healthcare. Like all of these sectors that could be impacted by driving something new into our community. So during construction, so we did a pre-feasibility study, right? We worked with Ernst & Young on some of these numbers, and we chose to be pretty conservative. So if anyone is interested in kind of diving deep into this, we'd love to do that. But this was kind of the economic benefit of the construction itself of a proving ground. As you can imagine, there's a lot of union labor that would be involved in that. And both, I think, in the actual construction and then as you'll see in the development of it as it continues. Here's the annual economic benefits once it was established, and you have a 3-year estimate and then a 15-year. The Momentum Station operations is what it would cost to actually run this as a proving ground. Out-of-area clients are those who would be shipping specialty vehicles in and saying, hey, we're gonna test for the next 3 months and then we're heading out. Permanent clients would be folks that are saying, hey, we're gonna set up shop here. And we've seen this in other places throughout the nation. There's some folks who are set up permanently in Florida. There's some folks who are set up permanently in Ohio. And essentially the idea is like, we know we're going to be doing this work. Honda is a good example. We know we're gonna be doing this work and we're not at any point going to stop doing it. So it makes sense for us to just be on site. And then the total impact would obviously include some of that peripheral economic output. So why is this important for workforce development? Part of it is that there's not a lot of other options on the West Coast, and that means that we're kind of excited about the competitive advantage that this might provide. The other element of it is there is just a lot of work being done in this space, right? Certainly in the EV space. I think we've all seen most of the large car manufacturers investing in that. But there's a lot of technologies that are slowly being introduced into vehicles that are AV or connected vehicle elements, and we foresee that to continue. And certainly, as I've mentioned, we've seen some federal investment in seeing what the future of that is going to look like. It's important that we are part of that conversation. It's also very relevant that so much of that technology is being developed right here, right? So it does make us very well positioned to also provide the ability to test those vehicles and to have the grounds and spaces to be able to do some of that R&D on site when needed, as opposed to developing it right here, sending it to Ohio to do some testing, to bring something back, to then send it down to Southern California so that they can bring it right back here. It's not the best picture. So these are some programs that are already set up. And one of the reasons I think it's important to mention this is to say, like, while it's really exciting that we are somewhat on the cutting edge of something, we are not the first to say, hey, there's a lot of potential here. And I think it's important that we sort of invest now in thinking about what that future looks like so that in 5 years, we're not saying, oh, you know, that thing they're doing in Philadelphia was super cool. I wish we would have thought of that. Another thing that's important that I think should be mentioned here too, though, is that most of these programs have some government investment. A lot of the times, the proving grounds that they're working with have actually been built by their state DOTs, Department of Transportations, and a lot of the times these workforce programs are being either partner funded or funded in full by community-based organizations in partnership with educational institutions. A good example is that MAP 21 right there. I believe that's a full Carnegie Mellon program. So what are we talking about in regards to kind of a pathway? Obviously, I've talked a lot about the proving ground and all the like careers and workforce development that could come out of that. But we envision this to be a full pathway that starts with just exploration, right? Bringing more kids to this space, teaching them about what a connected vehicle looks like. We already do that at Momentum Station. We do field trips, which is really fun, and the kids actually have some incredible questions. They're pretty quick to be like, what do you do if the robot doesn't stop? Right? They've already got this, like, probably because they hear their parents and they hear a lot of adults in their lives asking these questions about, like, what's the worst case scenario? And it's really fun to engage with these fourth graders about, like, what does safety testing look like then? What is the regulation? And what does human error look like right now? Right? And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of my presentation. The second step is about experience, right? So school projects, and actually this is something that CCTA already does, so we've got some expertise in this area. We work a lot with engineering programs in our high schools, and so this would give us an opportunity to say, like, here's a specific project, and then you get to come out and see it displayed, or you get to come out and see it deployed, which is even cooler. The step 3 is kind of that acceleration, so real world experience, externships, industry certifications, sort of doing that pathway work that Beth over here knows so much about and Bill. And then that fourth step would be really the evolution, that upskilling, the reskilling. And our vision for this is that proving ground would also be an educational institution in itself. So why Momentum, right? I think we've covered most of this, but essentially improving safety, stimulating economic growth, and creating sustainable high-wage jobs. And then again, maintaining our position as a leading facility within the country. So I talked a little bit about safety a second ago. This is a slide that sort of really highlights that. Basically, when we talk about autonomous and connected vehicles, we often talk about the questions related to their safety, our ability to control them, right? But I think it's also important for us to highlight the ways in which they've actually already made us safer. Most crashes, most things that occur because of human error. We're humans, we make mistakes. The reality is that in some ways, these vehicles have already been able to show us that they are less likely to make human error. And this is something that actually, to speak back to Pete Buttigieg, was just saying the other day on MSNBC. He was sort of asked, like, well, why are you interested in AVs when we're seeing things happen in San Francisco that make us nervous, right? And his response was this exact statistic. He said, look, 94% of fatalities are caused by human error. And that's important for us to consider and to talk about as we talk about the future of this from a workforce and economic development perspective. There's a lot of potential here for this to make us all safer and for this to be a really thriving economic opportunity. Okay, and then thank you. This is the team at CCTA. We are small but mighty. And Tim, who is our executive director, if you haven't had the chance to meet him, please let me know. He loves to go out and have meetings with folks. He would love to come meet you and your staff. But he also runs a On the Patio podcast. So if you're looking to listen to what's happening in transportation in Contra Costa County, that's the place to listen in. I also have to really quickly, thank you for the preemptive clap there. Really quickly, I do have to just say, we have a really incredible board that actually Federal Glover is our current chair of, who've been really supportive of this. And that really is a reflection, I think, of a lot of you and the work that you do to help to empower the folks that you work for and with. So I just have to give a quick shout out to say thank you so much to staff and all the work that you do to prepare these elected so that they can feel empowered to kind of do some new things and do some innovation, things that we're doing in Contra Costa County that they're really not doing anywhere else in the whole nation, which is really kind of exciting. So, all right, thank you. Oh, I mean, I feel like David already got the hard transportation question and gave it to MTC, so I'm like, is there any questions?
I just want to thank you for that bridge. I'm just wondering when that bridge is going to open.
Absolutely. Okay. Great question. Great questions. Yes. So what he's referring to is the Colmead Trail Bridge, and it is a bridge in East County that is actually going over Highway 4, which is really exciting and beautiful, to be honest with you. And it's connecting a trail that actually allows you to, I believe it's the John Muir Trail, right? I think I have to double check that, but I believe it's connecting a part of the John Muir Trail that otherwise you'd have to do like a large roundabout, which is not ideal. So Our hope is that it'll be open by March 2024, which is later than expected, I know. And the reason for that is they actually are fixing some sloping. It's not a safety issue, but it is an ease of use issue. And when we're talking about biking, we want it to be a very comfortable ride on this bridge where folks are going over a freeway. We want it to feel attractive and comfortable. And so we're gonna fix some sloping and just make sure that it's sloping in the way that'll make it easiest to ride across. As such, March 2024 at the latest. I will let you know I'm currently planning for February, so my hope is that that will be a little earlier than expected. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Lindy. Thank you so much for your presentation. Oh, you had a question for Vikrant? Oh, you had a question.
I think this is a very unique effort from a county transportation agency. I don't know how many examples there are around the state, like actually doing economic development. And my question is, we are having a very hard time convincing our leadership that we need to play a minor role, not doing the work that you're doing, but we're having a hard time just convincing them that we need to have some role in economic development. And I know that the board is very supportive, but could you just say a little bit, how did it come about? What expertise do you have internally? Do you have economic development managers? And then what's kind of the future for that activity, that group? Is it going to expand?
So first and foremost, thank you for the compliment, which I think that very much is. I think that CCTA is really forward thinking and does have a tendency to say we don't need to stay in our lane, excuse the pun. I do really think that our board plays a big part. I also think that it's Contra Costa County, right? I think there's a lot of folks who really believe in this area, who've lived here for generations, and who want to see there be more opportunity for the folks who have lived here and do live here, and to not have folks have to move out. And I think as a result, our board is saying hey, if we have the capacity to be part of what that looks like, then why shouldn't we be? I also think it's a lot of the forethought of those who thought Gomentum Station was something worth trying, right? And I give a lot of credit to the folks who did that and the city of Concord for their willingness to be a partner in that, the Navy for being willing to say yeah, all right, which is kind of wild in my opinion, because generally working with the military, who I have great appreciation for, tends to be yeah, that land is still ours, so we're just gonna leave it there. So I think there was a lot of forethought and a lot of folks who were really excited and willing to take a step forward. And then now we're being able to build on that, right? We're being able to say, well, look how successful this was. Why don't we try to see what more it could be? And so with so many things, right, you have to get that pilot in. And I think that's something CCTA tends to take almost as a philosophy, is let's try it. Right? And right now we have an autonomous vehicle in San Ramon. It's pretty much the only running autonomous vehicle in the state, right? We have autonomous vehicles that are coming to the city of Martinez to try to get people to medical appointments and to sort of see how they can supplement the public transit. These are things that aren't happening anywhere else because I feel like CCTA was well, let's try. And I also feel folks Tamia Brown at the Workforce Development Board's response is sure, let's look at it. Let's see what we can do, right? People are really excited and receptive to jump on board, and we couldn't do that without partnership because actually 0 of these people work in economic development. This one included. So I think it's really important that we have really good partners, that we try to be really thoughtful about what that partnership looks like. But a lot of it definitely comes down to folks in this room being willing to be partners and having a board that's if no one else is going to do it, then why not us? And I think having an executive director who has a tendency to say, I don't have one lane, right? Those of you who have met Tim Hale, he's very much let's go wherever we're going. So I think it's a lot of people with a lot of passion and a lot of excitement and a lot of willingness to try. And it's something that makes Contra Costa special, is that I think we do get to try things out here. Hopefully that answers you. And I wish you the best of luck, because I would love to see, totally speaking as Lindy, ABAG and MTC be a little more invested in that.
Lindy, you spoke about the K-12 system, but can you talk more about what CCTA's vision is for working with 2-year and 4-year colleges?
Great question. So, I mean, I feel like we should turn it over to you to talk a little bit about, truthfully, the work you're already doing in this space. And, I'm remiss of not saying that, like, one of the reasons I think this is something that Tim sees as they're having potential for, and our board being willing to hear, is that there's already work being done in this space, right? The Tesla Start program is already here. We have a Future Build, which is a program when we talk about the lack of access to jobs as kind of mid-career jobs. Future Build is a training program, or has a training program for those who can be EV technicians. It's really short and it's free, and it's a great way to, I think, get folks kind of entry level interested in whether that's electrical overall and going on to become an electrician or working within that space and field. It also gives us a really needed thing, which is folks to work on our EV chargers. I don't know how many of you have driven an EV and walked up to a charger that wasn't working, but it happens all the time. And it's a problem that needs to be addressed, right? And part of that is that there's a lot of different people managing these machines, and we're still statewide trying to figure out that blueprint. But CCTA is also involved in creating a blueprint that would hopefully make it easier for us to understand where all those chargers are, who operates them, and what the future is of building them out. MCE is also doing some of this, for those of you familiar. Sorry, I totally got a little off guard there. All that is to say, I think that absolutely 2- and 4-year universities are a big part of this. In fact, when we talk about the idea of there being kind of a campus space in that proving ground, most of that's been about the idea of upskilling, reskilling 2-year credentials, not a 4-year degree or 4-year universities. And our hope would be that they could do some of that work on the campuses that already exist, but also be able to have access to these really hands-on learning experiences within a proving ground.
Build just briefly on that, on the role that these post-secondary educational institutions play. It's really central to developing the next generation of the workforce. I think, for example, of the things that Los Medanos College in Pittsburgh in our district is doing, and we're paying close attention because we think they contribute significantly. You mentioned Future Build as an example too, a program that we have subsidized as well via the Keller Canyon Mitigation Fund, and a program that we certainly encourage because we've actually seen the results. Now, I do sort of approach this from the perspective of someone who also works in higher education. I'm in my 18th year teaching at California State University, East Bay, and we've had conversations recently about whether or not our programs, particularly those that feed the public sector, need to be academic programs, which means that they're focused largely on earning a degree, perhaps going on to earn an advanced degree, or do we need to look more closely at how practical these programs are in the workplace? And it came out of conversations with city managers who were saying, well, it's great that you guys are sending people out here with these master's degree in public administration, but they can't run a spreadsheet, right? And so from a practice standpoint, I think higher education plays an important role in economic development and jobs development. And so I certainly want to, acknowledge the work that Los Medanos and the other members of the Contra Costa College District are doing, just so you know, it is appreciated, it is talked about, it is recognized.
Absolutely. We are so fortunate to have 4CD. Oh, and I'm getting the thank you so much for your presentation, Lindy.
Thank you very much. That was excellent, Lindy. Appreciate that and the feedback also. And you've heard a lot of conversations about workforce development, a lot of comments related to that. So I'm really excited to now bring up Tamia Brown, who's the Executive Director for the Contra Costa County Workforce Development Board. I had the pleasure of working with Tamia, with the Workforce Development Board for 22 years and under Stephen's leadership and Tamia's as well. So just glad you're all here to present. Appreciate that. I'm going to get your PowerPoint ready for you. But let's welcome, please join me in welcoming Tamia Brown.
Good morning, everyone. Whew. So many good questions, good conversation. I'm going to try to stick to my script, but I want to address some of the things some of the questions that have been brought up. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit. I'm going to give you a WDB snapshot. and I'm talking about really about our business services, attraction, retention, and rapid response, how we provide services to these different areas.
Achieving equity. That's our focus at the Workforce Development Board of Contra Costa County, a business-led board that builds public and private partnerships with education, economic development, labor and community organizations to solve complex workforce challenges. We invest in our community. Through federal, state, and private funding, we make sure there is alignment between government workforce services and programs and the needs of local employers. If local businesses can't find enough skilled workers or they need new talent, we are the first stop to recruit, train, and retain their workforce. We ensure a pipeline of diverse workforce talent is ready for the jobs of the future to keep local companies competitive. When job seekers and young adults need new skills, or want a more secure in-demand career path, our career centers offer employment and workforce services, occupational skills training, and educational programs to help them achieve upward economic mobility. Our vision is that every job seeker, every young adult, and every business has the chance to achieve equity and live a high quality of life in our beautiful community of Contra Costa County. Representation on the board gives Contra Costa businesses a seat at the table to articulate their needs and collaborate to meet those needs. When we work together to meet business and industry needs, we also create pathways to employment for job seekers, and that leads to a stronger local economy for everyone. To learn more about how we can help your business or industry with a long-term workforce solution, or if you want to serve on our board, visit www.achievingequitycontracosta.com.
All right. So that's just a snapshot of what we do. I got to thank our business services team for putting that together. So business services at our shop looks like, here's what we do for individuals, businesses in our centers throughout the East Bay Work Networks. Many of you guys are familiar with the East Bay Work Network. It's our AJCs across the counties. We advertise job openings, screen applicants, connect employers with qualified applicants. And then we follow up, right? So when businesses come and they say, hey, we need a talent pool, this is what we do in our shop. We also offer employer training opportunities. And through our training opportunities, you collaborate with the AJC staff, our providers, our business services representatives to develop a training model. We can customize our training. We have funding opportunities that businesses can take advantage of to create customized training for new hires and incumbent workers. Those funds are typically ETP funds or grant funds that we go after. We also offer on-the-job training. We offer subsidies to offset the costs. When you bring on new staff, the Workforce Development Board can fund making those new hires more affordable and train individuals who don't have the required skills, the updated skills. We also have a suite of online trainings, right? Virtual trainings to improve soft skills, mandatory compliance, and to get industry recognized certifications. And all this is free. We also, we tailor things for employers. We work with the California Employees Association for these mandatory compliance trainings or just different questions about HR, wages, benefits, leave, things that small businesses really need assistance with. So in practice, I'm gonna share here about some of the initiatives, and this is how we work with businesses, this is how we work with our community college districts. So over the last few years, prior to my arrival, the Workforce Development Board has invested in healthcare. And healthcare is shown, I think, behind manufacturing, about an 8% increase across the county. So we collaborate with the community college and adult education. We use our ETP funds, which I mentioned earlier, to train incumbent workers or new hires. And one of the projects that I want to share about is our EMT program. So we've been funding an EMT program. We've get individuals trained, and now we are an apprenticeship sponsor. So these individuals can go and work to become paramedics, and we're helping support and building that program with our local employers. So this is something that we can offer to businesses, right, who want to create apprenticeship programs. And this is a first for us. Typically, workforce boards say they have an apprenticeship, they can refer you to an apprenticeship program, but we've actually spearheaded and developed a paramedics apprenticeship program for our residents. Another project I want to talk about is the marine trades. So this is an industry where we found that not a lot of individuals, they have hiring shortages, typically what you hear across multiple industries, right? So we've created an industry advisory board to develop short-term customized trainings for careers that are in the Marines, right? So we're talking about machinists, we're talking about building ships, we're talking about restoring ships. This was an industry that is aging out, and the employers came to us and said, we need help. We need to figure out how we're going to replace this generation that's retiring. So we're working with post-secondary education. We're working with labor. Labor is a huge asset in this project because most of these jobs are represented by labor. So you have to have labor at the table. We're also working with the Working Waterfront Coalition. You can look them up, the Policy Advocate Group. But this is just a strong partnership in addressing the needs of the employers. As mentioned earlier, we're investing in advanced manufacturing because, as Stephen mentioned earlier, 11% increase in job growth. We have a partnership with AM Bay Area, who is a member association of manufacturers. We're working, creating training programs. We're helping address hiring needs. We're supporting women in manufacturing. There's an ambassadors program for individuals to go and learn about this industry. And we also support the manufacturing days and summits. All right, another initiative that we have recently launched is Think Contra Costa. So this is a recent a website that we've launched that is a countywide professional network of organizations that focus on starting, growing, and retaining companies in the Contra Costa County. There's 5 pillars, I think, listed here. I'll read them if you guys can't see. Entrepreneurship, business startups, funding and loans, HR, regulatory and legal assistance, workforce talent and training, growth services, and networking. And that's Think Contra Costa. We're also, as we move out of our initial website implementation, we're going to have pop-up resources across the county where businesses and partners can come out and network and get information. That's to come. All right, rapid response. This is another retention model that we use real quickly. Layoffs. We get warn notices, we provide on-site services, rapid rehire, tailored support to meet the affected individuals. And layoff aversion, this is something that we do that is not typically understood or known about, but we want to avert any layoffs that we can, right? And that could be, workforce planning, we could be training, so individuals who are they're laying off, say, because of, they don't have the skill set. Well, let's take these individuals, let's get them in a customized training program so that they don't get laid off and maybe they can get a wage increase by building their skills. So that's something we do with our layoff aversion funds. Other opportunities, work sharing programs, job rotation, cross-training. All right, in summary, just want you guys to know that employer services aim to support businesses in finding, training, and supporting their workforce development needs. Now, I am open for questions because there's a lot of workforce development talk, and if you guys have any questions, I'm just gonna wing it and answer whatever questions come at me.
Thanks, Tamia. First, I want to say that Los Bonanos College has loved working with the Workforce Development Board. You guys are great partners, so I definitely want to encourage everybody work closely with her and her staff. They're awesome. Wanted to follow up on your comment about the apprenticeships and having the board serving as actually the intermediary or the standard holder for that new paramedic apprenticeship. Is that something the board is looking at doing on a wider scale of actually being the intermediary and developing and holding the standards for additional apprenticeships?
Well, yes, we are looking into that. This has been our trial run with the paramedics apprenticeship program. And we find, some employers have been reaching out to us to think about how they can, use apprenticeships as a model in their workforce. So there's federal dollars available. We received 2 grants to support this apprenticeship model from the Department of Apprenticeship Standards.
That's really good to hear, because I know we're always excited about apprenticeships, and I know a lot of employers and other workforce development folks are really excited about apprenticeship potential. We know that there is a large lift to create that apprenticeship standard and get it registered. So knowing that that's something the board is looking at, we will definitely want to follow up on that.
Okay, great. No, absolutely.
Question? All right, just give me 1 second.
Hi, Leslie.
I'm just helping you get your steps in, George. Always looking out. As you were sitting here talking about it, I was thinking about the fact that we have a lot of folks who are English language learners who come over with experience, but one of their roadblocks, and something we try to help at the San Pablo EDC, is how can we get them language ready? Because we really need them in healthcare. We need them, we need language competent care, we need culturally competent care. So I'm wondering if, since we have the colleges and maybe adult ed, can we look at, with those dollars, forming language programs? Instead of just going to ESL, it's language around specifically EMT, paramedic, that sort of thing, so we get more of the folks in our community who are ready to do this, truly ready and able, language competent, in order to pass the certifications and move up.
No, absolutely. There's multiple opportunities that I can think about here. We can definitely, we're looking to ensure that individuals that we bring into our EMT programs and our healthcare career pathways represent the communities in which they live. So that being bilingual. So working with the community college, we have programs that are specifically designed for the ESL, English Second Language Learners. But yeah, that's something that we can definitely continue to strategize on.
I want to mention there's a county-wide adult education consortium that involves the adult ed schools and the 3 community colleges in the county. And we just got a grant for exactly that, for healthcare and English language learning. So it may be adding contextual ESL classes either before someone goes into a healthcare program or concurrent with, or as you say, there may be people who already have the credentials from their native language or from their native country. They just need to be able to pass a certification exam in the US. So I think there's more to come on that, but you're absolutely right, there's a big need.
Any other questions?
Oh, the Bay Area jobs. That's the one I
Sorry,
forgot.
we're not raising. Tamia, we, as we are working with all our partners and stakeholders, we hear a lot about we need 1,000 bus drivers a year trained. We need 500 bus mechanics. We need 1,000 e-bike mechanics, or we need property managers after we build. So, we hear a lot of that, and we kind of direct them to the workforce development boards. The question I have is, if we have those kind of, these are all public sector jobs, They're good paying jobs with benefits, and we're having a hard time filling those jobs because they're not being trained, folks are not being trained, and it probably requires a year or 6-month training to be a bus driver. So do we come to you with funding, or do we come to you with the need?
Both.
Or both?
Both.
Okay.
Not going to turn down any funding. However, this is where we work with the community colleges, we work with private training providers to ensure that their curriculum is up to date and training for the workforce that we need, right? So we bring industry into the conversation initially to find out, okay, here's the training programs, here's our, what we have in our system. Does this meet your needs? If this doesn't meet your needs, we need to sit down and work with the deans, we need to work with the faculty to come up with the right curriculum to ensure that we're training the workforce for the jobs. Now, we know that most of our programs in the community colleges are impacted, especially in the in-demand occupations. So we have to figure out a way to get more people in those trainings. We have to train, professional development is necessary. We have to get people more trained and more into providing instruction.
And what if you don't have the money?
What if we don't have the money? Well, we go after the money. I will say that, we brought in, 10 million last year in discretionary funds. I didn't talk about all of them, but we did go after quite a bit of funds to address. Like just recently, we submitted a grant for the displaced oil and gas workers. So we're anticipating the fallout in that and how we're going to serve those individuals. We brought in a high road training partnership to address healthcare initiatives. We're trying to develop the maritime trades. That was a $4.5 million grant, a partnership with Alameda County, covering both counties, to develop pathways in that industry. Let's see, what else do we do? We have a Californians for All grant where we're training young people, focused on young individuals entering into climate, sustainability, careers. But if you notice, all of the grant opportunities and solicitations ask for a workforce development arm, right? And so that's why I tried to share with you guys some of the things that we offer, because we speak the language within those solicitations, right? We are your partners. We convene, we have everyone at the table. We have CBOs, we have community colleges, we have industry, we have everyone at the table. We just need to come together. I think the Bay Area Jobs First, I keep wanting to call it something else, SURF, but okay, we got a name change. But we bring together 9 counties, 10 workforce boards covering the greater Bay Area. So we have the people at the table. And that just covers industry, education. I mean, it's a huge network. This is something that's unprecedented. I've been in workforce for like 20 years, and 9 workforce boards have never come together to have a conversation and work together. So. All right.
Nothing else? Thank you, Tamia. Let's give her a hand for that. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And one thing that Tamia mentioned, I don't know if you guys really heard it, especially the economic development folks in business retention, that they do offer this hotline where it's a free HR hotline. So you have any businesses that have any questions or concerns, maybe they're looking at hiring people to make sure their questions are right, or they're looking at maybe change or terminating staff, they want to make sure they're doing it the right way. One call can save you tens of thousands of dollars. So it's free for all Contra Costa business to call that HR hotline. So make sure you follow back up with Tamia and the Workforce Board to get information on some of their services, as she mentioned. All right? And so I do want to mention that we are at 11:35. The forum is scheduled until noon. However, we do have the room until 1 o'clock. So I just want to forewarn you, we may go over a little bit. I understand if you have to leave early, but we did have the one more presentation. And then after that is the roundtable update for all our colleagues. And so I just want to give you a heads up on it in advance that we may go a little over noon, but if it's okay with you, it's all right with us, okay? We just have to have everything cleared out by 1 o'clock, so please help me with that part. All right, thank you so much. All right, yes, so I'll get the next PowerPoint presentation, going to be an update from East Bay Leadership Council, Mark Orcutt, the president and CEO of the Contra Costa, the East Bay Leadership Council, I should know that one. All right, so please welcome Mark. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you, man.
Perfect. I will try to do my presentation in, I think, negative 10 minutes. So we'll move really quickly here. And thank you all for being here today. I know that there's a lot of great meetings. This is where I'd want to be today. Obviously, there's a lot of attention on San Francisco and APEC, but there's incredible leadership in this room for getting things done in our region. So thank you for being here. I'm just going to go quickly. Look at it, it's even moving without me. Maybe we're rolling. So I just want to let you know that the East Bay Leadership Council, who we are. We are a nonprofit organization. We represent hundreds of employers across Contra Costa and Alameda County. Our cause, what we provide is public policy advocacy on issues that strengthen the economy and improve quality of life. That's our focus. So creating that policy environment where jobs in our communities can thrive. That's what we're all about. So how we do it, we advocate on those policies, we host events that inspire, educate, and connect, and we lead programs that expand our impact in the broader community. Just to give you a quick snapshot, this is just a portion of our membership, but to give you a sense of the broad coalition that we bring together at the East Bay Leadership Council, and really proud of that. Again, moving very quickly here. All right, so 2024 priorities. I want to talk to you about a few of the things I'm excited about, not a full list here on the table here. But we're going to be increasing our housing advocacy. We've advocated at the state level for legislation pretty significantly over the last 9 years. Time and time again, we heard from our employers that access and affordability to housing is a critical barrier to them retaining and growing their workforce in the region. So we're going to stay at that. We see it as an economic and environmental imperative to increase the housing supply at our region. Now, we need to keep mindful of our jobs housing balance. So we're going to ask those questions, and we'll be endorsing projects at the local level. So we're going to put our values we're going to put our voice where our values are, and we're going to start speaking out. So you're going to start seeing me at your city council meetings, planning commissions, and we're setting a series of criteria for the kind of projects that we're going to endorse. It's going to be a high bar, but we are going to start endorsing housing projects in the region. The advocacy, I could go a lot of different ways, and I was taking notes throughout our entire meeting today about all the different areas where we can continue to increase our advocacy as an organization, whether it be supporting pilot projects for microgrids, permit streamlining, Medi-Cal reimbursement rates, when we talk about the healthcare industry and the issues that they're facing, so many advocacy opportunities for an organization like us that we believe will strengthen our economy. We're also going to be taking a really close look at the ballot in November. There's going to be a lot of things that could potentially impact our economy. Everything from vote thresholds, $20 billion potentially housing bond that we hope stays focused on housing and not a wide variety of other policy issues. $18 minimum wage, rent control, just to name a few. So we will be analyzing all of those and speaking out accordingly, and we hope to do that in coalition whenever possible. The next thing I will highlight is that we are proud of the opportunity that we have had. You'll see a separate logo there. I'm not going to dive into it for time. We have a C3 sister organization called the Contra Costa Economic Partnership, so a 501c3 nonprofit sister organization. I lead both. Our staff are staff of both. We have 2 separate boards of directors and financials. But because of that different organization, that's a little bit of a quieter organization, not advocacy focused, but we're really proud of the role that we played over the last 5 years to be the nonprofit home of innovative work-based learning program, an initiative and tool called Earn and Learn. We were able to do that. They're now scaling, moving beyond our nonprofit umbrella, and we're excited about identifying new opportunities for us to play that role for innovative work-based or workforce programs in the future, particularly related to the healthcare workforce, and really thankful for our partnership with the Workforce Development Board and Tamia's vision in that space. The next thing, and again, speaking of partnerships, I am really interested in helping to develop an economic indicator dashboard. We all know that this information that we try to access can be pretty disparate. Right? It's hard to access. You're calling up me, you're calling up Steven, trying to find the right data you need to apply for a grant. And so that's why I'm excited to hopefully find opportunities to partner with Steven and others to come up with a unified set of criteria. What are those metrics we're tracking? and have it in one place for the region. Not trying to claim credit, but I think that we can share the cost and share credit together as a region. So excited to hopefully build something out in 2024 as a starting point. And always deepening our local partnerships. There's so many issues that we can work on as an organization. I have zero interest in duplicating efforts, zero. I do not have the time for that. And so the opportunities for us to build new partnerships together, I will always answer that call as an organizational leader. And just really quickly, we take the long view in terms of economic development, and we think about the long view as including the leaders in office. Right? So we started a candidate training program back in 2017 to help people learn how to run and win elected office. It's been really successful. We just finished our 4th cohort. Here are some of the places where the candidates have lived that went through the program. So pretty good geographic reach. I will say that if this was a heat map, it would be a lot cooler in Alameda County. So we have work to do to expand our reach in those spaces. But 40 graduates in total, 12 serving in office. Really thankful for that, the results there. BuildTheBench.com. The other piece through our 501c3, the Contra Costa Economic Partnership, again, taking this longer view at how we support and solve problems for our regional economy, is that helping to create a nonprofit board match program, helping nonprofits find the leaders they need to serve and play out their mission. So we call that Engage East Bay. We all know the essential role that nonprofits play and yet they struggle to recruit new board members. We had nonprofit leaders in our membership come to us several years ago and say, we're tired of going to San Francisco and tabling for board members. They don't represent our community. They don't understand the issues that we face. And so we decided, okay, well, we'll start. We'll try to do something. I will be honest with you, is at the beginning of the beginning. It's basically 2 forms, one that nonprofits fill out to tell us about their needs, another for individuals to fill out. When you fill out either one of those forms, you get an email with access to the full roster. That needs to scale. We thought we'd be able to play more of a role in matchmaking. We don't have the capacity to do that. So I think technology is going to be the key here. I like to talk about it is we would love to create a Tinder. Swipe left, swipe right. When you have a mutual connection with a nonprofit, you get a notification and an example email for introduction. So I am seeking out in-kind contributions and an IT partner from some of our employers in the region, which maybe don't have the funds to fund it, but might have the folks who could help us build it. So that's something that we're working on, how we're going to do it. Those are where some of the individuals have been in terms of mapping. Just to give you a sense, we've got about 60 nonprofits with like zero marketing, right? This is something that's been a little bit haphazard. About 65 nonprofits, like in the system, a similar amount of individuals. And if we're gonna actually serve our nonprofits, we need a lot more individuals in the pipeline. So partnering with our employers and tapping into their employer volunteerism programs, adding this as another step, I think will be critical. So again, not all of that is what you would call traditional economic development, but again, advocacy, events that we hope connect and inform and educate, and then programs that expand our impact. We really do take pride in being a nimble organization. If someone else can do this better, take it. And we'll take on other initiatives because we have no pride of ownership. But if we see a need and if we feel like there's an opportunity for us to step in the fold, we will. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Any questions?
That was not negative 10 minutes.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you, buddy.
Hello, Mark. That was nice. And thank you for all of you that have presented today. I have a burning question that after Mark talks, you guys can chime in. So we're here talking about economic development, and that includes attracting businesses, retaining businesses, right? So in Contra Costa specifically, most of you Contra Costa economic development leaders are here. I am curious what strategies we have around public safety. I'm curious what you're experiencing in the public safety area and with the issues that we're seeing and hearing and how it's affecting businesses closing, the holiday shopping coming up, and there was a lot in the media this week about robberies, armed robbery and all that. So what are the strategies that your cities, like your organizations have around public safety? Thank
so
you.
I will say that if there was one public policy issue for the last 30 years that the East Bay Leadership Council hasn't engaged with, it's probably public safety. So our ability to have expertise in that space will need to grow because we are hearing it more and more from our membership. I will highlight that Speaker Robert Rivas, there's a new assembly committee, select committee focused on retail theft. Notably, no representation from Contra Costa County on that committee. So I think it'll be critical that Contra Costa retailers are our voices heard in that process. So I'm already kind of starting to connect the dots there, and hopefully that story will be told. What the task and what the deliverables from that select committee, I think is also an opportunity for advocacy from organizations like ours. So that's what I'll say there as a starting point. Also, we're hiring. I lost a very talented policy director in Lindy Johnson, who you saw present from the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. So it's on our website, eastbayleadershipcouncil.com, if you would like to be our next policy director or know someone, that would be great. Great workforce, great career opportunity to connect with smart people. That's it. All right, thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right, so with this, the schedule does call for the roundtable. One thing before we do that, just so you'll be aware, hopefully you registered or signed up so we have your contact information. As we mentioned, the PowerPoint and some of the other information, we're happy to send it out to you. Also, at the same time, we'll be sending out a survey, a meeting survey evaluation, so get your feedback. This is the first time our department's done this type of a forum on this side for Department of Conservation Development. And so all your feedback will be appreciated because we want to make sure we continue the momentum, but also meet all the needs of all of our attendees here, okay? So now with the roundtable, instead of just going city to city, what we'll do is kind of like a popcorn style. So if any of the cities or even elected official, legislative staff are here, have any updates, information they want to share, let's say about a minute and a half, 2 minutes max, if it could be pretty quick, but also we want to make sure you share information because somebody here might benefit by hearing what's going on from your areas. So we'll start with Pittsburgh over here. See your hand.
Thank you, George. Again, Robert Carrera, City of Pittsburgh. So just to give you a couple of quick updates, I kind of alluded to this earlier about our industrial. We're looking to bring in investment into the area because that's ultimately what that area needs. It needs upgrades to power, sewer, water. We want fiber optic internet in that area as well. So we as a city, we were the lead applicant to apply for phase 1 of the Recompete pilot program. Some of our census tracts were qualified, so we applied for that program to propose a number of construction and non-construction jobs, which include those infrastructure investments, as well as workforce investments as well. We were happy to have, not just within Pittsburgh, but also in Antioch as well. I'm a big regionalist. I believe what's good for Antioch is good for Pittsburgh, and what's good for Brentwood, it's good for Pittsburgh, so on and so forth. We're happy to have support of East Bay 88, of Antioch, of Los Medanos College, of MTC ABAG. We are very glad to have that support, and that's the kind of investments that we're still looking for as well. Also, to help boost our investment, we are forming a enhanced infrastructure financing district. We're in the process of doing that. We tried to start in 2021, but it got paused. Now we're restarting it. So we're in the midst of that, and we're hoping to approve it by May of next year. And then couple more things I'll mention real quick. Pittsburgh Eats is a program we did with NorCal SBDC where we had 15 of our local restaurants go through a 7-week course where they learned all updated information about the trade, and they just completed that, and now they're applying for a $5,000 grant. So we're really grateful for the NorCal SBDC and partnering with that. They're a great partner if you ever get a chance to partner with them. And then lastly, just wanted to highlight, the city of Pittsburgh just recently became a certified My Brother's Keeper community by the Obama Foundation. So we're very grateful to have that. That's good work on our recreation director, Colette, who had an opportunity recently to go to Chicago and join their forum, got this chance to speak with former President Obama. So that's just a little bit of a highlight as to what Pittsburgh is doing. We're very active and we're looking for investments into our area. Thank you.
Any other cities updates? Elected official, legislative staff, want to provide updates?
Yeah, thank you. Of course, Congressman Garamendi's office is really excited making sure that any information you need of us, We're here to help. Congressman's new district, it covers the whole waterfront. I do want to touch on a couple of things, the funding, and grants. What we used to call earmarks are coming up again, which is now called community funding. Sadly, this Congress has put in where workforce funding cannot be part of your thing. It's sad. Hopefully, the new Congress in a few years will change. That will come into effect. There are also, again, on grants, I was just talking earlier, there are $100 million grants that are about to go away for the waterways from Pinole all the way to Stockton. And it needs $10 million input for $90 million, and that's going to sunset next year. We would look forward to the counties to perhaps move that forward, but not to set on those two little points, but again, our office is open. Anything we can do, we're looking forward to helping each one of you. You guys want to add anything?
I'll share the state perspective a little bit. So again, my name is Elaf Issouf, District Director for Assemblymember Wicks. Given her position as housing chair, it's been really great to hear about the nexus between transportation, economic development, workforce, and housing. So those are all notes I'm going to take back to her. She's going to be brainstorming bills in the new session, so we're going to be taking in ideas all the way up until February. So if you have anything to let us know, please do. I also wanted to let you guys know that on a local level, we do have district budget requests as an option, especially for capital projects and any infrastructure needs that you guys might have. So feel free to talk to me about that more. I'm in contact with city managers who hopefully know about it. But essentially, all we need is a letter highlighting how much you need, what you need it for, and we'll be able to champion for it. Though, as you mentioned, the state budget is bleak. So limit your expectations.
Everyone, for the city of Pinole, I wanted to highlight that we entitled over 600 units of new housing over the last 2 years. About 200 of them are currently under construction. Right now, all of those are affordable for seniors and veterans, so we're proud of those projects. A project that was entitled that is coming online pretty soon will be the tear down rebuild of an old vacant Kmart building. It's been there for 5 years now, and will provide 225 units of apartment housing. It's vertically or horizontally integrated into an existing shopping center too, so we're excited about that project. We're working on updating our safety element and creating an environmental justice element. We're working on our first climate action and adaptation plan. And we're also implementing our first economic development strategy, which was adopted last year. So I will be hiring next year as well.
Thank you. Appreciate the update. Yes.
Quick update for the city of Pleasant Hill. We are still working with the state to get our housing element certified. It was a great, engaging experience, I think, for the city, because we would normally have 5, 7 people sometimes come to our council meetings. That jumped up to 200, 300 people. So a lot of engagement there. There was some back and forth with the state. A lot of really interesting discussions that I'm sure some other cities have had about what is a low resource area for housing and what is a high resource area for housing. So for example, we proposed a housing site that was along a major transportation corridor, Contra Costa Boulevard. So is that high resource because of the transit proximity, or is it low resource because of the air quality being close to 680? And then some of the same discussions about whether it was higher resource to be closer to retail, or if it was higher resource to be closer to other medium income residential neighborhoods. We actually did approve our general plan for 2040 without the housing element back in May. And so we're now in the process of updating our zoning and our development standards to get consistent with our general plan. And we also approved new districts in the city of Pleasant Hill. So for a very long time, we had 5 districts that were all at large. So we could have 5 city council members all living on the same street, sitting on our city council. Not anymore. So we have 5 district seats going forward with the election in November 2024. And then lastly, we just closed out our first phase of our technical assistance grant program. So this was $300,000 from ARPA funds that we allocated for small businesses in our city, really businesses of any size, to hire a consultant and then use city grant funds to upgrade their website and also do some enhancements, some improvements to their social media. In some cases, set up a social media website or hire a consultant on a one-year contract to give them content for their social media. So that's been a successful program, and we may do a phase 2 going forward.
And as I'm walking to Marie, just please join me in thanking again the City of Pleasant Hill. I know we're at the noontime, but express our gratitude because they not only hosted the forum here, but also provided some amazing coffee and refreshment, everything. So let's give them a hand again for their hosting. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it.
I was hoping my colleague would sum up, but City of Brentwood, there's a lot going on, and of course there are a lot of opportunities. The Innovation Center, the 260-acre site between Lone Tree Way and Sand Creek Road, we are under construction on a $9 million expansion, all city funds, I should point out, extending Sand Creek Road westward, northwesterly to the Hydron Ranch Road, which is going to open up the whole west side of the Innovation Center. And I share that because we've been talking today about a housing jobs imbalance along the 4 corridor. We have 260 plus acres that is shovel ready. And the city is using its funds, working with the property owners, 6 to 7 property owners, to make this area available for industry. So I will be following up with Vikrant and others. We're also working with a number of developers, industrial as well as mixed use, to transform this site into a sustainable development town center. We already have a 288-unit project that is built out on the east side of the 4 and is leasing up as we speak. We have Costco approved that should break ground hopefully in the next few months. We have the pedestrian and bicycle bridge that, thank you, County, I wish it was sooner, but will open up next spring. So just imagine, and those of you familiar with places like Culver City and Emeryville, where people can live and work in the same community and not have to drive, that's what we're creating here in eastern Contra Costa County. So I see a lot of positives in the future. And then let me just comment briefly on our downtown. We have a very small downtown in Brentwood, but it is one of the, and I've worked in a number of downtowns across California. It is a real gem. And for those of you who have not been to downtown Brentwood, we basically only have 1 vacant space now. And we have more restaurants flocking to the area. And next month, we'll have Locanda open up. Locanda is in Lafayette and Danville and Pleasanton. And I share that because look at the demographics and look at the folks who are coming to a city, supposedly a sleepy bedroom community such as Brentwood, and coming and spending their dollars. So there are opportunities for Pittsburgh and Antioch and Oakley to feed off of that energy. And I see a lot of positive things coming forward over the coming months for the 4 corridor cities. Thank you.
Hello, Mary Swanson, Economic Development in the City of Concord. I'll make it fast. I know everyone's really hungry. So everyone asks about the Naval Weapons Station. Brookfield's the master developer, and City Council will vote on their term sheet January 16th. Fingers crossed. Another item is East Bay Small Business Development Center. They cover Contra Costa, but have you ever seen them actually give in-person counseling here? Since they moved out, no, but they will start doing so the first week of December at Concord City Hall in the library. And that will cover all of Contra Costa, so even if you have a business that isn't in Concord, they're welcome to come to Concord Library for that service. And then one last thing is, since everyone's doing plugs for their city, I'll mention that we have the Concord Life Science Center, which is a co-working laboratory space. We've got 500 to 9,000 square feet that is customizable, and it's very affordable compared to the lab spaces that are more towards the peninsula. So just something to keep in mind.
I'm going to be very quick. For those of you who drove Nissan today, I'm so sorry. I'm a very bad parking person, and I couldn't park properly. So I'm just giving you a warning. Hope there's no Nissan, but if there's one, I'm sorry. Well, with that said, I'm Harumi Murata with the City of Oakley. We're really going through the momentum. Needless to say about our housing development project, I just wanted to highlight two things. Distribution center. For those of you who joined the Contra Costa, the county tour, that you were able to see what was going on there. They're now talking about 15-year, 20-year, 30-year plans. So for those of you who happen to work with those, then I would love to talk to you more about the site selection process. Another thing was about the economic development. We are really redirecting ourselves into to the recreation development. For those of you who want to take a short vacation, no one think about Oakley. But it will happen in 5 to 10 year plan. We are really hoping those to attract those traffic from Silicon Valley to our area. We'll have another hotel development in downtown, and we are also we've been hosting 2 national level of bass tournament fishing tournament in Oakley. So for those of you who are in fishing, please come to Oakley. And with that.
Thank you. Oh, okay, we have over here. And then Bill.
Hi, everybody. Marilyn Lucy from Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan's office, and I'm just going to say one thing about public safety. Our office supported the San Ramon Police Department's ability to get $5.6 million to battle organized theft. Retail theft. And so if anyone, oh, there she is, Patience, if you have any questions, let's have a meeting. There are there's grants to be had, but let's just talk offline. And if anybody else is interested in that, I'll give you my card.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thanks, George. A couple of quick updates from Los Medanos College. First, I want to start with a couple of district updates. First, we just announced, the press release went out, we have a new permanent chancellor. Mojda Medizada moved up from being the executive vice chancellor, is now our permanent chancellor, so we're super excited about that. I wanted to let you know the state chancellor's office for all the California community colleges has put out an update to the Vision for Success plan, the Vision 2030. There's a strong focus in there on workforce outcomes and closing equity gaps. So that is a major focus for all the community colleges. Also wanted to give you a heads up to watch your emails. Our district workforce development team is starting to solicit regional input for our new comprehensive local needs analysis for our federal Perkins grant. So we want to hear what are the areas that we should be focusing on for our career and technical education programs. Coming down to the college level, Los Medanos College out in Pittsburgh, we recently had the investiture for our new permanent president, Dr. Pamela Ralston, so we're very excited to have her on board. We recently finished updating our educational master plan and are in the process of developing our new facilities master plan. We are also putting the final touches on the $2.5 million renovation of our vocational technology lab. That's using California Strong Workforce Program funds, so that's going to support all of our industrial and vocational tech programs. We know that all of you doing this economic development work are really thinking about how do we attract and retain employers in the cities and in the county. A couple of things that we're doing around that. I have a new employer engagement flyer that I'll put on the table here, so I want to encourage all of you to take that, share that. It's all about the idea of thinking of the colleges not only as a place that employers can look to hire new talent, but also to upskill existing talent. because we know that that's important for those employers. And as well as to help with that engagement, we've been really excited that we've been doing the last couple of years working with the city of Pittsburgh. It's been helping us develop what we call the Show Up, Skill Up, Move Up campaign, which is a long-term program intended to increase the number of residents of your jurisdiction who are marking the some college or higher point on the census. Because we know that that is one of those things that employers are looking at, is how educated is your local workforce. We want to partner with you on how do we raise that level. So that is a Show Up, Skill Up, Move Up campaign. There's information on the college's website at losmedanos.edu/skillup, or you can contact me. My information's on here. Again, Bill Bankhead, I'm the Workforce and Economic Development Manager for Los Medanos College. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, is that it? Is that it, everybody? Everybody pretty much stuck around, too. Okay, so again, this is the first forum that we've held, but we do definitely look at holding these in the near future. So we will be sending out an evaluation form. So please be honest and share feedback, constructive feedback, so we can help enhance this. Because the goal is to make sure that we're all connected, all understanding each other, and all have connectivity with each other, so we can help serve our county and our region and strengthen our economy for not just the business, but also the workforce and everybody involved. So again, thank you for everybody that came out to present and share. Thank you. Glad to be here. Thanks, Alyson, for your leadership and helping to support this effort. And Jason, thank you so much. All right, and again, the survey will come out, so feel free to share that. The PowerPoints will be also provided as well. All right, so thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day and be safe out there. Thank you.